in the demand. What's up, everybody? This is Karak with ACG, and I'm here with Silver and Abzy for the Best Gaming Podcast number 468. Thank you to everybody for joining us. Thanks to these guys for always taking time out of their days. No thanks to Johnny, who left us in the lurch. I'm just joking. Johnny was not feeling well today, so he didn't get a chance to jump in. I want to say thank you to all you guys who commented on the video. You can do that now, which I wasn't aware of, which means opening up the video in a separate window and commenting on it. It hugely helped. Also, reviewing on Spotify and iTunes. We have a bunch of stuff to talk about. Xbox, PlayStation, Nintendo, Marathon, Namco, Bethesda.
Oh yeah, Nintendo did some shit.
Slightly.
Wait, didn't they? Kinda. I mean, the Twitter API did some shit, right? Like the Twitter AI is fucked now.
Yeah,
the
Twitter
API, sorry. API,
but the Twitter AI is also messed up. Gork or Grok.
Okay.
Dude, that thing is so
is
bad.
Elon just fucking up everything for that?
I don't know, but it starts out and it'll be like so-and-so says this, and it causes massive issues here and there. So I jump in and I bring it up and look, and it's like two posts.
Yeah, it's
and I'm
so
getting
bad.
it as an alert. I'm just like, dude, I don't need that. But thank you, everybody, for jumping in, and I will fix that super chat as well that's over the top of us. We have a bunch of stuff to talk about, but I haven't talked to these guys in a while about what they've been playing because we skipped it last Friday, and I think we skipped it on Wednesday maybe even. But we at least skipped it on Wednesday for Abzy and I. What have you been playing, Abzy?
I am deeply right now addicted to V Rising. I think it's a actually phenomenal game. Just super well designed. I'm glad a lot of people tested it for 2 years before I actually dove in, because holy shit, it feels like everything is just so perfectly designed to not make you feel, when you feel stymied in these like survival games and feel like, oh, I have to do this and that. The progression is designed so well in a way that it's just very, very smooth, right? The UX design is amazing, and like sorting items and putting them in their stuff, everything is really good. And it's just really nice to play a survival game for once that actually has really, really good combat. Like I would say I like the combat in this more so than Diablo or Path of Exile or any of those ARPGs. It's very, very engaging. Obviously, the fun of the combat from those ARPGs come from like the builds. So you make builds so that you can sleep on your keyboard and just kill everything, right, in sight. But in this one, it's actually super engaging. You gotta dodge. You have all these abilities. It kind of feels like playing League or something, like an engaging combat system, but PvE. And obviously there's like a huge PvP thing with all its own mechanics of like overtaking bases and building mazes so that people can't get to your castle heart, which I haven't engaged with at all because I rented out a server and I made it PvE, increased the day-night cycle a little bit, and yeah, just been it's just a really, really good game, man. Like fun boss fights, really cool locations, dungeons. Yeah, I'm very surprised, man. It's fucking good.
What's the price on that?
It's around like $20-$30, I think.
Super cheap too.
Very cheap.
That's
yeah.
not a bad price. What about you,
Yeah.
Silver? Why he's checking on the price for that? What you been playing?
Warhammer 3, pretty much for the most part.
The DLC, right?
Yeah, Thrones of Decay. Yeah, which
think?
is really good. Much better than Shadows of Change, even though I'm one of the few people who did actually kind of like Shadows of Change. But
Why?
Yeah, Thrones of Decay, like the new revamp to the Empire, especially, is what I've been playing. And man, it really helps. Like the Empire campaign is so much better now. Not that it was necessarily bad before, but the way it works and is structured now is just really thematic and feels really appropriate, and really engaging when you're playing as like Karl Franz, trying to actively hold the Empire together as there are just threats all over the place, and the Empire is actively crumbling around you, and you're trying to hold it together. It's really, really fun.
Jeez, sorry.
Also,
I apologize. That scared me. Dogs are barking.
Also, like the new units, also just so much fun. Like the land ship, like ridiculous unit, but it's so much fun to use. Yeah, it's just I think Creative Assembly really hit a nice stride with it. Hopefully they keep that going. It's going to be really interesting to see where they go from here in terms of updates. But so yeah.
What's the cost of the DLC for this? What's the cost of like a typical DLC? Or are they different? I suppose
they actually revamped the pricing model for Thrones of Decay, where they actually give you the option. So there are 3 factions that get content for it, and revamps: the dwarves, the Empire, and Nurgle.
Oh, and, always Nurgle, always the best.
And you can if you're only interested in one of those factions, you can choose to just buy one of those, the content for one of those separately. So those are priced separately at like, I think it's like $8 a piece, and then if you bundle them together, you'll get a slight discount at like I think like 21 or $22. So I think the pricing is just very reasonable. Particularly for the amount of content, and like even if you don't buy any of the new content, a lot of the faction reworks are implemented freely. So if you're like, don't buy any of the new Empire units, or the new legendary lord, Elspeth von Draken, you still get the revamp of the Empire campaign, like the new mechanics for Karl Franz and Balthasar Guild and stuff like that, which I think also goes a long way towards restoring goodwill for those who lost it from Shadows of Change.
Yeah, it definitely feels like they've sort of turned that around. But I feel like all of their games, all of the Warhammer ones have had a DLC or 2 that's pissed some people off. I could be wrong on that. I just feel
they have.
Yeah, I feel like there's always been that one.
And it's not just, I mean, it's not just the Warhammer DLCs. Like, it's been pretty much a consistent Creative Assembly thing. I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, because like they pissed everybody off with the release of Empire initially, which was really buggy on release, and particularly Rome 2, which might have been like the worst release ever, or release date ever. But they then sort of restored a lot of the sort of ill will towards Rome 2 with the Imperial Edition, and making like the revamp of the game they did with that, and making that free for people.
Gotcha. That's cool. I have been playing man, what have I been playing? I'm not really reviewing anything. People are asking if I was reviewing Homeworld. We tried to get a code. They were using one of those weird code sites, and I realized over 2 years ago I had tried to fix an issue on their code site, and it was broken, and still not fixed. So I wasn't able to get a code in time. I really want to check out Homeworld 3. I really want to check out Homeworld VR. And most of it's been on the Legion doing Fallout with some mods natively, which is sort of mind-blowing that you can, run it natively and get amazing frame rates and play. So that was fun. And then I wanted to ask Abzi, what was the price?
They're on $35.
Okay. So $35 if you guys are interested in V-Rising. I want to say thanks to everybody in here. If you get a chance right now, open up the podcast into its normal view form. Leave a comment. It does help. Thumbs up the video. Tell other people we're doing it. Old Boy says, what happened with Marathon? We'll get to that in a second. Nothing bad. They're just basically releasing the basic old versions of Marathon one at a time onto Steam so people can play it. So you'll be able to get that. But we'll talk about that. We'll also talk about our thoughts on Marathon and the hope. Carlos says, have you guys heard of Animal Well? And I can tell you, dude, so Animal Well, I believe, is it's what's his name's video game published. It's the first one published by Donkey. Yeah. And from what I understand, it's not made by Donkey. People were like confused by that. I don't know why. It's published by Donkey, and it's his first one. And for all intents and purposes, what I'm hearing is that it is fucking fantastic. Like, nice. I was watching, it was GameStop or somebody, maybe it wasn't them. I was watching a streamer as well, and then reading a couple articles about it. And I mean, it was just super high praise for it, saying that it is a full-on game. Like, it's a gamer's game. It's certainly not a story-based. It's about platforming and all this stuff. But man, were the reviews high for that. It was really exciting to see. Johnny's in chat. What's up, Johnny? Let's see. Busy week in gaming news for sure. Yep, we do have a lot to cover. We'll get to it. Let's see. Big Mac says he's going to be driving some big rig while he listens to us. make sure everybody understands that's a virtual game. He's not like driving and cackling and listening to shit while he's supposed to be paying attention. Damage Code says, if you guys got a chance to check out Abiotic Factor or Abiotic Factor. I haven't. I know you brought it up to Absy and I. Yeah. Oh, did you? Did you play it?
Yeah.
Or check?
I didn't play it. I just saw what it was about.
That's what I did.
Really cool. It's in early access, which is why I didn't want to get it right now. But it looks like they're doing something cool with it.
Yeah. I love the game, says me, the main character, and everything is here. Yes, you are always the main character in your life. I can say that. Maybe not in here, but you're definitely a main character for me. And again, I'm glad you're always streaming, man. It's fun to talk to you in there. Let's see. Helldivers 2 purchase restrictions were updated. According to SteamDB, this is from Martin, which I did see this. They added the Baltics, but they did put restrictions for purchasing directly from those nations that were impacted. And I'm seeing a thing here that says Sony's blocked all countries from purchasing, all of these countries also from purchasing Ghost of Tsushima. Jesus. So it's a huge restriction. Yeah, Pirate Software posted that, but a lot of other people are posting it too.
Speaking of Pirate Software, they're going to definitely pirate that shit if they can't buy it. So.
Oh, you mean pirates, not that guy, not
no,
Thor.
Not him.
Oh,
no,
okay.
not
I was
Thor.
like,
no.
What? Did I totally misread who he is? Okay. Yeah, yes, definitely. People will. This is, it is what it is. I mean, these restrictions are real. Sony, Nintendo, Microsoft have restrictions in nations they need to fix. Let's see. Jesus Crest says, mods on a handheld feel so special. It does. Pat says, am I the only person that wants Xbox to thrive? No, you are not. I think everybody wants everybody to thrive. That's sort of, we want gaming back in the awesome days, man. We want it in the, what? I don't want to even say it out loud, but in the midst of COVID.
Man, is it selfish to say for me, it is the awesome days? Like, I've been playing so many awesome games, both indie and AAA.
I think it just means it'd be nice if there were, you're hearing about less layoffs. This year's been so ridiculous in layoffs and stuff that it's just, it's hard to even get around.
I'm just saying, as a consumer, like as a person who loves games, there are so many good games out there and I'm having a lot of fun.
Yeah, there's definitely...
Which might sound selfish, but I mean, that's
not selfish. That's just saying there's a lot of games. That's just a fact. Here's the thing. You can say, this sucks, but I'm having a great time here. And to me, not to a YouTube commenter who will bitch about it, but to me, that is a normal thing for a person to say. It's almost like saying every bad relationship doesn't have good times at all.
I have wars all around me, wars in my hometown and shit, but I'm not like super depressed all the time about it.
Yeah, it can absolutely be a very weird thought process to just sit there and worry about it all the time. Jesus Crust says, great to be a gamer, definitely a little rough to be a developer. That might be a clearer way of even saying it. That's a good point. But yeah, it has been a weird couple weeks in gaming, and I wanted to go back onto the Xbox things. Haven't seen a complaint yet, but I'm sure somebody will be like, is that clickbait? So I want to say why I named the podcast this, because normally I don't name podcasts in the way that I did. But the reason why I said, is Xbox doomed, is because also the rumor, of course, is that Doom is now coming out. So we know that there's been leaks that Doom is on its way, a new Doom after Doom Eternal. And what I wanted to ask these guys was, what do you want to see from a new Doom? Like, what do you want to see?
A return to what made the 2016 so good. Yeah, version so
more
good.
Simplicity, less
more focused.
More focused, less. I like platforming in first-person games, but I don't like that type of platforming that they did. I like the ones where you just have the jump and the WASD, you know what I mean, and the turn, and you can like bunny hop or whatever the hell. I like that type of platforming. I don't like the weird like, oh, you got to climb this and then use the grapple hook and all that shit. That felt a little bit too much. Yeah.
Also, you really don't need the cutscenes and the passive narrative where you basically make the player as a passive spectator. Like, Doom is always active. Doom is always you going through the level, and that basically being the narrative. To me, anyway, like it still feels out of place to have like the cutscenes and stuff in a Doom game.
Yeah, I like when they stay in first person, and like in Doom 2016, the like just him punching something or doing something with his hands just showed all the emotion he needed from Doom guy, I think. And
it's interesting because I think I think maybe, but I'm assuming that you guys also liked Doom Eternal, even though you like 2016 better.
Yeah,
and
I loved Eternal.
That's the weird thing for me. I feel like Eternal, I enjoyed as its own thing, and it was a good sequel, and it did stuff that was different, but I only needed that difference one time. Now let's go back to, and call it Doom 24, whenever it releases, Doom 25, and just go back to, I mean, in fact, I wouldn't even have an issue if they were like every other release was they attempted some unique thing. The platforming was just weirdly gamified, which is funny to say for Doom because it is gamified.
But
there were times where there were floating islands, and you knew that the only way to get to that is if you had the like it was made for you. It was like they looked at your weapon output and was like, we will build a level just for these things, instead of even finding vines and having to burn it, where at least you feel like nature caused the vines. It feels like Doom Eternal was locked into what they wanted. But dude, it's crazy to me to think that there might be a new Doom, because I just don't think of Doom as being from 2016. I don't know why, but it does not feel that old to me.
Right.
And it looks
still looks
gorgeous,
amazing.
Man.
Yeah.
It looks insane, and it ran good then. And it
On 8K, that's like the benchmark for 8K gaming.
Is it? I wouldn't doubt it.
Yeah,
I wouldn't doubt it. Yeah,
I mean, they
16K.
were even able to fit it on the Switch.
They were even able to, and they did a better job on that one than there was another port I remember reviewing. It's pretty rough.
Wolfenstein.
Wolfenstein, yeah.
Wolfenstein?
And they patched it up later, but it's on its initial release. I didn't love it, and I just think, I don't know, man. I want to see them go back to the red. I feel like Eternal, the color scheme changed maybe a little bit. There was I don't know. There was a little bit different color scheme. They gave you a base for no reason, then they took it away, and you were all, why do I have this base if you're just going to take it away?
I was just saying the base stuff I was iffy about. I didn't really care.
Yeah, it didn't really fit either, I don't think.
Yeah, I think both of you guys have gone on the record as saying that was probably one of the weaker, it's like, one of the weaker elements of it. Go ahead.
Didn't do anything for me, that's all. I didn't hate it or anything.
Yeah, that's what's cool is they did something different, and I'm fine with that, and now I'm ready to return to the we know that Mick
or maybe even see them
try
something else. Maybe it'll work. Trying something else.
I agree. Yeah. You guys, we all know Mick won't be coming back, which does suck.
That sucks a lot.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
It's not like we're short on amazing composers.
We are not. We are not. Yeah. And that, to me, it's going to sound really weird because it sucks that it fell apart and it seems like it's negative. But one cool thing is that it opens up. It's almost like a AAA company saying we're not going to release our games every 3 years. We're going to release them every 6. And then the other developers can look and go, well, we'll hit that spot. And I feel like some composers can say, well, I'll hit that spot. And there's been music like his. Go ahead.
And just music and gaming, I just have like 99%, even in games that are bad, I have nothing bad to say about the music that they've been knocking out of the park, the composers all around. Maybe some games have okay music, but most of them that I hear is just like, even in games I don't really like. So it's always good.
Remember the breakdown Mick did for Atomic Heart?
Yeah, that was sick.
His blog post about quads, and
the
I was
randomness.
Like, dude. But it wasn't just the randomness; it was how he was doing discordant quads and stuff in the music. And I remember reading his blog, and I know that stuff, and I was still going, I know 50% of these words, or maybe 100%, but I don't know at all what he's talking about. Had to go study what Mick was. Mick is like the scientist of music that doesn't sound like science is behind it. Yeah, but I mean, his stuff does it. I would never have gone, oh, Mick is, super scientific about what he was doing. But at least for what he was doing on Atomic Heart, I think it was Atomic Heart, right? It was, it was Atomic Heart. It was Atomic Heart, man. Yeah,
he's always leaning into electronic stuff, even in the metals. He always pushes some electronic in there.
Yeah, it was great to see him describing music on other games and stuff. But again, that'll suck. I think for a Doom, I would also like to see the multiplayer get a substantial push. It doesn't have to be service, but I would like to see multiplayer.
Some quakey shit is always good.
And I'm not talking small because this is just me. I'm talking 10, 12 maps, full multiplayer, where a person who buys it could easily say, I am only buying it for multiplayer, and I feel like I'm not getting ripped off. Like, you're almost buying two sides of it. It's like you go this way, you go that way. I would love to see some serious support for Doom multiplayer going absolutely nuts. And
because I think it could pave its own way. I think it could do really well, man. Like, if they put some focus into it. I
would like to see... I mean, dude, what if it did and you suddenly have esports around it or something? Because I feel a lot of times with esports, they stick to their things and they try. They're like, maybe we'll get this, but it never catches on. I don't know if there's any game out there that's not Halo. I think Doom is one that would catch on if it was good. Yeah. And that would be fun to watch. It would be crazy, but it would be fun to watch. So going on from there, let's see. People are saying they missed 2016 Doom multiplayer. Juan says hello. Let's see. Lucifer says, let me preface this by saying I didn't wear ear pro in Afghanistan. I don't know what that means. Oh, ear protection in Afghanistan. ACG. Is it Garrett? KARAK? Carrot. Carrot is a joke. It is KARAK. It is K-A-R-A-K. It's from Warhammer. Let's see. Abbreviated Review says that he felt that he actually liked the Fortress of Doomitude. Is that official? Is that what it was called? It wasn't called that officially, was it? Oh, okay. That would have been funny if it was called that officially. That would have been awesome.
To be honest, I wasn't surprised with how tongue-in-cheek.
Well, that's sort of why I asked.
That game sort of works.
That would be awesome if they did the Fortress of Doomitude. What else? What do you guys want to see in chat for Doom? Huge multiplayer, good long game. You know, where even though you are just running for it and stuff, I would like to see them
rock,
keep
paper, scissors mechanics, right? We can agree on that.
Yeah, we don't. Okay. Yeah. I don't like I like it where the bad guy's there and maybe he has a weak spot, but you can kill him with anything. You don't need a fire versus ice or That's not Doom to me. Doom to me is like just
I completely agree.
Rip and tear, like just go forth and destroy. And you figure it out.
Whether you use the shotgun or the rocket launcher or whatever you want, or the BFG or whatever you want to use.
Because that's also the thing is then you can metagame it if you want and say, hey, you know what? Here's what we're going to do. I want to try to beat this game just using the fucking handgun. Or I want to just make it, where you're not arbitrarily, there's this one guy that I can't do that because, he doesn't suck in damage from this. This is a Space Marine guy with a bunch of generic weapons from 200 years prior because they don't advance in technology and they still use a shotgun in the normal way. It's like, let us just kill the bad guys in a normal way. Juan, welcome to being a member. Thank you very much. We appreciate it. It supports the channel, and anybody who becomes a member can get access to the Discord where we do streams. We did D&D last week, little mini game. We did some board games, and we hang out and talk about everything. We try to talk about games, but let's be honest, shit goes south pretty quick. Next up, Alex, go for it.
Sorry, keep the loot pinatas, because that was one aspect the new Dooms brought in that I actually thought worked surprisingly well.
Yeah,
when you set up the finisher, you pull off the finisher. Well, the chainsaw or just your fists or whatever it was. But you do the finisher and you get ammo and a bit of health back.
So I have to ask you about that in particular. I did hear that many people complained that they felt that, because I believe they were unlimited, right? Unlimited amounts of finishers, that they felt like it not a get out of jail free card, but maybe there should be a limit on it. Do you agree with that? Or do you just like it the way it is and just say, screw it, just let me do it? And I'll play it the way I play.
I like the way it is, in that it lets you sustain the power fantasy, and it just gets it gets into a rhythm that starts to feel really satisfying, at least for me.
And I think mechanically it works
in terms of that gameplay loop.
And like you can headshot and kill someone, for example, versus stun them and then go for the finisher or whatever. There's a lot of mechanics around that. Like if you feed the ball type enemy, I forgot what they were called, the shotgun what was it, the shotgun bomb, and they just and then they swallow it and then you can just go for it. I think it works mechanically with a lot of things.
Can I take away one character from and say just get rid of the Marauders, as Big Mac reminded me. I'm okay with no
Are those
Marauders.
the motherfuckers with the chainsaws
shields
and shit?
And no, they're the
fuck
shield dudes that were
the plasma.
like. I did not like them. I just did not like. They
and
felt
then the shield regenerates and shit.
It felt like they. Well, okay, maybe if it goes back to 2016 style and they build the levels around those kind of things, but there were a lot of times where I felt stymied in just fighting them because of what I had as well. So I guess I don't mind them being there, but almost like put a little bit more attention to where you're placing them. Soulskeeper says, Karak, what Fallout were you playing on your Legion? I'm currently doing 4, and I'm almost at 200 mods, but that's to test how many mods I can get running on the Legion.
Without breaking the game?
Without breaking the game. Yeah, that is quite literally what I'm doing. I'm like texture mod, a little bit higher to see like what's acceptable frame rates and stuff. So it's been very fun to do. With Doom also, so Doom 1, I think there were a couple technical issues with one of them, a little bit, ignoring that. They normally run really well. Is there any technical stuff that they were missing, or anything that like on a tech side where other games have eclipsed it, or we feel like there's something that there were cutscenes? So I think Silver's saying he'd rather just sort of get out of the cutscene. Get out of the cutscene. Yeah. I agree with that. Yeah.
And if you are going to give us like those story elements, do it like Half-Life then.
Yeah, do it within the game or
within the game.
Still lock to the first person view. Don't ever go outside of Doom Guy, as it were.
And what's a cutscene really fucking do in Doom? Because here's the thing about Doom. All they're telling you ever, because you only have this kind of interactivity, is destroy this thing.
Yes, exactly.
This next thing, right? So the cutscene part of it could be the technical part. Perhaps they were loading, which maybe now on the new systems they don't have to do. So maybe they can reduce that. I think it was presentation, and they wanted to sell it to people who like a more cinematic experience and like to see Doom Guy. But I don't think we need that kind of stuff. I would like to just get away. I like the idea that you're running, like when Cortana talked to you, or Guilty Spark, or whatever the fuck his name is, and they're just like, go kill this, go do this. And even though Halo had cutscenes, the best parts to me were the real-time data, like a drone being above my head saying, watch out for this. I love that. Go ahead.
Yeah, I feel with any first-person game, I do not like getting out of my character. It's one of the reasons I love things like Metro Exodus, Half-Life. You're always in first person,
where you're always
in your first person. Yeah, I don't like. That's one of the reasons I didn't really like Ghostwire Tokyo, because in the intro, the first couple of hours, they just keep taking you out over and over again. For cutscenes, and I didn't like that.
It really pushes you out of that, where some games really understand that. I mean, Prey stuck you in it.
Cyberpunk was good with that too. Cyberpunk was like good. Any dialogue was amazing in first person. Yeah.
Cyberpunk was so worried about it they didn't let you see your own reflection.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm just joking. That was just me being a shit.
God damn it! I was being positive about the game.
I know. JB1521 says, now we have to ask the question: is Doom multiplayer viable? And I would say yes. I personally see no reason why that wouldn't be viable in today's market. But what is there any reason why? What's a Doom multiplayer number normally? 12?
I don't know.
8,
it's not that
6?
big.
It's not that big. Co-op.
Like 16.
Is there co-op?
I thought it was 16. No, I'm saying co-op would be nice, obviously, if you want to play it that way.
Or like
16.
I honestly don't remember, but I think like 16 or something. 16 or 32 players.
Dude, that's a lot of gibbon. That's a lot of death. That's a lot of death pinatas going on at one time. I think that would look amazing. I don't see any reason why it's not viable, at least in my head, off the top of my head. Because I feel like this is going to sound weird, so I don't mean easier, but I just mean mechanically you're not having to throw a bunch of shit in. Like grappling hook might be there, but like all these different vehicles and stuff like Halo has to do. Doom is just all, here's a map, and that guy is for sure the bad guy. Yeah, and here's a gun, and you're all right, so I know every single thing moving is bad. And to me, that's why Doom multiplayer feels special, is they don't, or in the past, any times I've played, I didn't feel like there was a bunch of added bullshit on there. Sundowner
movement. Movement is one of the biggest. That was always one of the biggest things in in Doom multiplayer.
Yeah, so I guess that's a question. Eternal had you climb. See, that was one of the problems with Eternal, right? Is that the movement was stymied by the climbing because the climbing isn't as fast as the running. And so you'd start and stop. Go ahead.
Yeah, and games like this, I love just the classic first-person platforming and speed, just like being able to
the fluidity of
and
it,
all that stuff. The fluidity, yeah,
emotion.
like that's my favorite. Some of my favorite type of platforming. So that, like, the climbing was very jarring, and just all this extra shit, I just wasn't a huge fan of.
Yeah, I like the death parkour, not death climbing. Like, I like the leap up, jump off a wall, turn around, and it makes even a okay player look and feel really cool. That's what rocks. Go ahead.
It engages that power fantasy. Exactly.
It absolutely, yeah. It's a good reflection of it too, because every hit does so much damage. You see huge explosions, creatures exploding, and it
and then you get the finisher, and you get the loot and the health, and and you get to do it all over again.
I'm just going to say I think it's viable. I mean, anybody in chat, if you don't feel it's viable, I would like to know why. I won't disagree unless I feel you're wrong. Sundowner says, so long as there are load times for levels, that will always be cutscenes. So long as there are load times for levels, there will always be cutscenes for games. I see what he's saying. Yeah.
I mean, is an elevator ride a cutscene, or like would you consider that a cutscene?
Well, I can tell you right now, just recent, we're doing an interview that's not in a podcast. It'll be a separate video, and we were talking to a dev, and the first question I asked was, and we talked about it in voice chat 2 days ago, what happens when you want to deliver a game and you need a cutscene to do a hero moment? And you don't need the cutscene to load. And he was stating that it's easy to get it in now because people are so accustomed to it. But the belief is that as people get accustomed to not having that, storytellers may have to completely change the hero moments, the crawling through a cavern and the opening, pops up, because the loading is not required. And how do you tell the story, and how do you sell it to somebody that you want that, when that will now no longer be filling a weakness? So his description was, in the past you sold it as it's needed. Now you have to sell it as extra resources that you're adding for no reason because there isn't a load. And you're all, all right, I see that. Like, I can see some
It wouldn't
producers,
be for no reason, right? Like, it would be for, like, impact, hooking people into the game, or showing people the world, or whatever.
But I think for resources, when you start saying, we're going to show this big view, we're going to pan the camera, and then you have a tech guy who's like, oh, we're going to do that in camera or out of camera. And then you start talking, and somebody says, why don't we just not have one? And you might get some people to save resources, not spending time to slow the game down and stuff. So, versus, hey, we need this for sure.
Sure.
Next up is, you sick, bud? I'm going to let my dog out. People are talking, would you guys be excited if Sony announced a new MotorStorm game? So we can talk about that. I can hear you. I'm just going to let these guys out. Did you guys even do MotorStorm?
I did not, so I'm one of the worst people to talk about that, probably. But I never did play the original MotorStorm, so I can't say.
Is that the one on the PS3? I think I tried it as, like, when you go to the game store and you try the consoles in the game stores just to see the graphics or whatever.
Right.
It was the one with I think it had, like, gyro stuff, but I never really, like, actually played it.
Yeah, me neither, unfortunately. Honestly, I don't even remember what it was specifically.
It was a demolition racer game. You race
right. So like Twisted Metal, or
sorta, yeah. And you would go, like, out in the desert, and you'd have motorbikes against
a rally game,
dune buggies,
like an off-road.
It can look like that, yeah. I mean, but you're still trying to smash each other because it had cool destruction physics.
Well, I miss car games in general that are arcadey. Like, it just doesn't happen. I want a new Need for Speed Underground type game. I don't know. Actually, I haven't been keeping up with the Need for Speeds, but I miss, like, those midnight clubs, those burnouts, and all that.
Yeah, I think that's fair. So I would say I'll be happy. I mean, I'm going to try to play any game that looks enjoyable, but go ahead.
And I definitely do think there is a niche there that hasn't really been filled by the indie scene for some time now.
I guess we would say kart racers are probably the closest.
Yes,
when you get the little kart racer.
Yeah. Like Mario Kart, even.
Yeah, even Mario Kart. Yeah, for sure. I do like the idea of the way they played out in Twisted Metal, or not Twisted Metal, but in MotorStorm, because it was so over the top in the destruction. They would cut the cutscene, they would show the slow motion, and It had this like Mad Max movie style, and I'm into that. So I would be all for it. I just don't know who they would put on it. That's one of the I think one of the big problems too is
I want
what
Driver San Francisco remake.
devs are working on. What you want a new driver game?
Driver San Francisco remake, man. That's what that was the best.
See, that's
one,
a
man.
remake that makes more sense to me, or Chronicles of Riddick remake.
Oh,
Those make more
Chronicles of
sense to me
Riddick.
than what
Those
you
were
know.
immersive sims, dude. Kind of. They had a lot.
Chronicles was pretty close to. I mean, it had some
Yeah.
cutscenes where it took you out, but I would say Chronicles with all the different things he could do and his powers versus where you were living. Yeah, or where you were. Sorry.
And there were, even
let's-
though you didn't like skill slot progression, there was still a progression system kind of in Chronicles of Riddick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see. Lancelot says, I want Eternal's story, but 2016's gameplay. Dog. Dude, you're a mess, man. Sorry, I have a sick dog, and he's just pacing around. Back door's
damn.
open. I don't know why you're coming in here. You stink. Buddy. Whew, this dog smells. He's got gastro problems of some kind, and he's knocking my shit down. He's in a panic.
Same. I'm like your dog right now.
Oh yeah, that's what you're saying. Your stomach was hurting. Cantankerous Goat
Yeah.
says Wreckfest is good fun with friends. Baseball Gear gifted 5 memberships. What's up, Baseball? I hope you're doing well. Thank you very much for gifting memberships to people. You rock. Old Boy says, did they announce Riddick 4?
No, not that I've heard.
Riddick, like the movie?
He might be talking about the movie.
Oh yeah, I've heard.
That makes more sense.
I have heard rumors about it, but
Me too.
I haven't heard a formal
The last
announcement.
one was pretty good, man. The last one was really good. It wasn't, the scope wasn't as wide as Chronicles of Riddick, which I love.
It was Pitch
It was
Black
more like
2.
Pitch Black.
Yes,
It was Pitch Black
like
too.
One,
Come
or
on.
1.5.
Yeah, 1.5.
Really cool, though. Really
And it
fun.
was really cool. And here's the thing about Riddick, dude. Straight up, they're B movies. They're B movies. I mean,
Are
but
they?
yeah, I mean, yeah,
Well
really
made.
they are, but they're well made. That's what I was going to say. And
But they're well made. Yeah.
the amount of money went down for this new one, but I thought for the amount of money they hit where a lot of big titles like Rebel Moon obviously can't hit.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I do hope that Vin Diesel, who's sitting on his Fast and Furious money, that must be an amount
Family.
we don't even know how to
It's just
comprehend.
such a unique world, right? Like,
Yeah, but I was going to point out that he's the one who started a gaming development studio to make that game. So the idea that he might have his Fast and Furious money and say, hey, you know what? Let's get out of Arc Evolve 2 or whatever that shit he's in. Let's go ahead and skip, let's get that out of the way. Let's go back to Riddick, man. Let's nail it where Uncharted is saying we're not really doing anything right now. It's like, all right. Well, now we have Vin Diesel, and they can digitally thin him up because he's starting to get old, which is fine. I have no issues
Eidos
with that.
to do it, dude. Eidos.
Eidos. Is it Eidos or Eidos? Eidos
I don't know.
is what I call it.
Eidos. I just call it Eidos. Yeah.
I'm
I
gonna stick
always
with
said
Eidos.
Eidos.
Oh, now I think it is Eidos. God damn it.
Yeah, I think.
I don't know which one
damn
it is.
it! Now that Silver said it, and I heard it again. Yeah.
Let's see. I always thought that Doom was a single-player game and that Quake was the multiplayer game. Yeah, I mean, I get that because Quake made its bones on being different, darker, and then also the multiplayer.
Yeah.
But I personally,
Valid.
yeah,
Quake 2 had a hell of a single player campaign though.
It did. Yeah.
I got to admit, I think I've liked all the Quakes. I mean, overall, like there was one that I think was just Xbox 360, or maybe it was just on the Xbox 360. I think it was the last one that Carmack was involved with. I could be wrong on that.
I don't remember if he was, but it
but
did
I
have
think-
that one sequence where you got Strogified.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like that was the last one he worked on. I could be wrong on that, but I like
Well,
them.
wait,
They're just good generic
Wait,
games.
was that Quake 4 or was that Quake 2?
In
think
my
it may
brain,
have
I
been
think it's
4.
Quake. I think it's 4 personally, but yeah.
I think it was 4.
Because
So
I
that was
thought
not-
he did 4, then he
I
went to do
remember wrong.
Rage, is what in my
Yeah.
brain I'm counting the titles, but I could be wrong on that. Let's see. Remember Onrush? It was a great game. Yeah. So anyway, we'll move on from there. I don't agree, but
The fuck is Onrush?
Onrush was a racing, like, not a great game. I don't know. It just was not great, but I don't even want to talk about it anymore. I really did
looks
not love that
woke.
game. It's not. Don't even say it. Don't even start. Let's see. What else do we got? Juan says driving games need to do a better job at making the player feel momentum. I think MotorStorm did it amazingly. Let's see. Driver digitally, I had to get it physical for Xbox 360.
Yep.
Damn.
That's true.
It's
I mean, I'm not saying he's lying. I'm saying
it's in distribution limbo. Yeah.
Is it? Huh.
Yeah.
What licensed music? Would that be?
I don't remember the specific reason why actually, but it might have been.
Well, I do want to talk about one other thing involved in the movie stuff that we were talking about with Vin Diesel is the new Tron Ares, the new movie is done filming. And I liked Tron Legacy, and I still will just do a shout out to any developer who wants to make a Tron RPG. A Tron immersive sim. If you made an immersive sim based in the Tron world, I would love you. Whatever DM or whatever developers
really
out
cool.
there. Yeah, I just would be so ecstatic
with mini games and stuff, or what?
I just like the idea. I think Tron has enough awesome, very smart base lore that they put together that the build out isn't exactly super hard. They've got your ISOs,
right.
And there's something about it that feels like a good DM, a D&D player, a good developer could look at that and say, as long as they don't break whatever rules the Disney has or whatever, they could say, let's, build on this as an RPG. Because they made 2 games, right? Or they made one official game that was like a real game, and that was on the 360, I think.
Monolith did the first-person shooter.
Monolith did that one, right? Yeah. And that one did okay, didn't it? I think it was okay. I don't think it shook any.
No, I didn't it wasn't Blockbuster or anything.
Yeah,
but
it wasn't a Blockbuster.
Was that?
And I think it is kind of mostly forgotten now. So maybe it was like underappreciated or.
Yeah, maybe a little bit.
Because it was pretty good.
I thought it was pretty good.
All Monolith shooters were basically pretty good.
Yeah, they were either pretty good or great. Because they also did Shogo, right? Didn't they do Shogo Mobile Armored Division?
I think they did, yeah.
That game is one of the best mech shooters ever. What were you asking, Abzi? Sorry.
If the Tron IP is just like forgotten by people now, or if it's just like if they're not going to do anything with it, was the last thing just Tron Legacy?
Movie. Yeah, the movies, and I think that it looks good enough, and imagine the graphics you could perform today with how they do the light and all that stuff. It could be really great. Necro says, love Shogo. Oregon Fresh says, yes to a Tron RPG. How that IP doesn't already have one is beyond me. Lance Olot says, let's be honest, everyone wants Tron 1 for one reason, games, specifically light cycles. Yeah, true. It is true. Alex is saying, your thoughts on Assassin's Creed Infinite monthly subscription focus on microtransactions? Where he talked about it, like the rumor appears to be that Infinity will be imagine the Animus, but for your Assassin's Creed character, and you're going to be able to jump into other games in some way and all that. But since no one even knows what it is right now, it's a little hard to know what they would ask for in microtransactions. But the rumor is that it'll be a sub. I assume the sub will be rolled into Uplay Connect. Maybe they'll add a couple bucks, but it'll be, if you do Uplay Connect, you'll also have a sub to this or something to that effect. But right now we don't really know what it is. And the only thing I've seen that overlaps, I don't know if Silver, you did these, but there were missions on Valhalla and Odyssey that let you be the other characters in the game that released about a year ago. So you could bring Eivor.
I haven't done those.
Eivor, back to Odyssey. And I think there was like a quest for each one. And that was sort of seemed like a test of like what would happen if we, dropped Connor into another game or something, and how would we handle the multi-world of it. I'd be okay because the VR stuff is the least liked, right? Isn't that considered in the Assassin's Creed game?
Yeah.
So if they did the Animus as the thing,
just to start a game,
right, and they sort of explained why you could jump these characters from place to place. I also believe the China Assassin's Creed is a test on customization, and that they're trying to see if that is as big of a deal as they think it is. Because I personally do feel I would like to be able to customize my character more.
Right.
I just don't know how that's going to land.
Personally, for a monthly subscription, I wouldn't care because that's how I play them anyways. Right now, I don't really own any Assassin's Creed. I think since I mean, I owned Odyssey, but Valhalla, I just paid for a monthly subscription and played it and was done with
you
it.
did
I don't
you
really
play Connect?
Yeah, I don't really hold on to those
whatever it's
games a lot, but I
That's
might jump
fair.
back in after a bunch of DLC is out or something. Yeah.
Yeah. Did you do Atlantis? The Atlantis
I haven't
DLC?
done Atlantis and I
Or
haven't done Ragnarok.
Yeah, we talked about this. Okay, I remember now. I knew I was getting deja vu for a reason. Yeah, I get where you're coming from. I think that's fair. We just have to see what they're even asking, guys, because like that's ahead of its time. I did see the rumors about that, and the rumors popped a couple months ago, then went away, then popped up again, and I think somebody said, "I'm leaking this because I want to socially force Ubisoft to look at the idea of this and stop it." Which I agree with the thought process, but it's like until I even know what they're asking, like what the plan. I mean, nobody likes microtransactions. I don't think.
Obviously, yeah.
I mean, it would, I don't. I don't think we have to say that. Nobody likes microtransactions. It would be great if it's all just whatever, but it depends on what they're offering and what they're asking. And if there is a vested return on it, well, then maybe it'll be worth it.
That's why they love, man. The mobile market's insane. I saw there's the subreddit for Arena Breakout, the mobile game. People are just like, yeah,
the toy one.
They're like, yeah, I spent like $500 and I didn't open anything good yet. And they're like, oh no, just spend. I'm like, what the fuck are you guys? The mobile gamers are just whales, dude. They're just spending, just spending in games, dude.
500? That's nuts, man. If somebody said they spent 500 on games, I would assume they meant all year long. That was all their game budget.
No. Like my friend would be like, oh, on Genshin Impact, he drops like $4,000 on fucking rolling waifu anime chicks and shit. Like but bro, those gamers, man, they're like a different breed, dude.
The amount of money, well, again, we were talking earlier about people with money in different levels. It's
right.
And then maybe it's their only game, and I play 6 and they play 1. I'm not going to say you can't do what you want to do in your game if I'm over here playing, my other game. Let's see. Going on from there, we talked about Assassin's Creed. Now, Esker says, have you guys talked about PlayStation is still keeping Helldivers hostage in more than 100 countries and demanding the same PlayStation account BS? Yeah, we've talked about it already multiple times on the last podcast. This is the thought process that Nintendo, Microsoft, and Sony all have nations because of either them or the nation themselves not wanting video games of a certain type, or companies. Depends on, if you're talking China. And I think it makes sense for them to not allow those sales because they just don't want the problem, but we want them to jump into the nations and build an infrastructure there. And it's not easy because I can guarantee you, guess who wants to be there? Those companies. None of these companies wake up and go, man, I wish, or I'm really glad we can't sell in all of Jordan. You'd be like, what? Of course you want to sell there. They do want to sell, and they've been trying to get in for a while. Some nations have different. I think there's also the translation of money. There's worries there. There's worries about infrastructure. And, you guys.
There are some that are completely bizarre, though, like with Sony with Liechtenstein and Monaco.
Where it makes no sense. Especially Monaco doesn't make sense. That's
yeah.
weird.
I mean, both those countries are really among the wealthiest in Europe and like tax havens for wealthy people for the most part.
Monaco.
Can I mention something? Here's a tinfoil hat. Here's my tinfoil hat. Here's my tinfoil hat. That the casinos in Monaco do not want video games coming into Monaco because they want people to go to the casinos. The moment he said Monaco, I thought like James Bond and casinos, and I was wait a minute, the big mafia, or what do you call them, big casino, the big casino industry.
In normal countries you just go bar hop, like people go bar hopping and stuff. In Monaco you go yacht hopping. People go
I know
yacht to yacht.
I know. That's crazy. That I did. My tinfoil hat went on instantly. I was just like,
the casino. That's all the casinos.
Dude, it's just big casinos. Yeah, somebody's trying to, and they're just talking to the litigators, and they're all, nope. Let's see. Benny Church says, I'm 20 minutes back, but damn, Doom multiplayer would feel like Unreal Tournament. I missed that game. Yeah, that'd be great. Bajar says, some people have spent 100K on Genshin. I think I mean, that's the thing, right? Like they spend they spend what they want to spend. I don't have any control over other people's money, but I don't. If the systems aren't there, I wouldn't have to worry about it, and be nice to not have micros. But they're here. You're not rolling that back. Like some of this, it's like AI, man. Let's see. Tresse Brothers, me repeats quietly to himself, just make a good game and sell it for a fair price. I will not be tempted by the glamour of evil. Well, you guys do make good games, man. And again, I appreciate you guys stopping by the Discord. But sometimes a good game these days doesn't feel like it's cracked up to be. Feels like companies need 50 other things. And we saw that this morning when the Prince of Persia game was delayed straight up because they didn't want to go against against Hades. So this is the Rogue Prince of Persia release, which for all intents and purposes is made by people who know what the hell they're doing. And they know what they've got, but they released a statement that says, so it's been a crazy week for us all. It all started when a little game called Hades 2 released. You might have heard of it. Seeing as everyone and their mom is playing that game, including our entire team and their moms, that's a mom joke just waiting to happen. We've decided to let people have their fun with it before we release the Rogue Prince of Persia. We'll still be releasing in May, and we will be back with a precise date on this coming Monday.
I'm excited for it, man.
Oh, yeah. While we have every confidence in the Rogue Prince of Persia, it's not every day that a game in the same genre as you, which is one of the most anticipated upcoming games of all of 2024, will release into early access a week before you plan to do the same. We are not prideful enough to ignore the implications of that. So I don't like the cyberpunk apology. I do like the cyberpunk, here's actual data of what's going on. None of this bullshit like Sony, who said, we're just trying to learn what PC releases are. You're like, geez, guys, come on. They're just straight up saying it's in the same genre and it's super well known. So, yeah, it makes sense for them, right? It makes sense. I think that's an awesome way to announce it. And for them...
Is that coming out in 1.0 or early access?
This will be early access.
Okay.
Yeah, and a first early access ever of a Prince of Persia. That's not Ubisoft's thing. It's not these guys did do Dead Cells, right?
Yeah, Dead Cells was amazing.
So Dead Cells was, but it was also early access. That took a long time to come.
Kickstarted like a bunch of roguelike games right now. Like it was an inspiration for many coming out right now.
And many like Metroidvania, Dark Souls type, much like Salt and Sanctuary.
Yeah, I just like
even stuff in Hades is inspired from.
Oh yeah,
that game. But anyways,
that makes sense because. I mean, I personally wasn't in love with it because I played it early access, but it's obvious that it's not the same game now, and it's absolutely insanely improved and all that stuff. That just you can bet your ass all the other companies look at all those games and try to add a little bit of it into them. I mean, that's just the way it is. That's why roguelike is a thing. That's why it's in the actual name. But I don't know the exact cost of this one, but I think it makes sense because later in this month we have 1,000-Year Door, 1,000.
Yes.
Remake, 1,000-Year Door. Yep. Okay, I got that one right. So we got 1,000-Year Door, and I don't know why I get that one right, and I can't get Unleashed right, or that was right. So we have that, and we have Hellblade, and a couple other medium-sized games. So moving it back, I think that makes sense.
Is Hellblade a AAA title? Is it releasing at 60?
For all intents and well, it's Game Pass, of course, but for all intents and purposes, it's the same as any, not a Call of Duty, I wouldn't want to say that, but it's the same as any, linear style, presentation game that we've seen in the past. It's definitely in the AAA space. I would say, looks-wise, it's for sure AAA. And they said, Rodica, I believe, is saying it's $50, so it'll be $10 off if you decide to buy it versus
Are they doing
Game Pass.
Physical release?
I don't know. That
I prefer I like the whole Alan Wake thing. Maybe it has hurt them, but I like give it to me for $10 cheaper and don't make physical because I don't really care. But a lot of people do, so I don't.
You know what? It's so crazy, dude. You just reminded me. They took 2 entire steps to save money and make money on that game. 1, work with Epic to get money up front, and 2, release it cheaper and not do physical. And they still haven't made money on that goddamn game. Man. Snuggles, $10 super chat. Morning, yo. What's up, buddy? Hope you're doing well. Hope you're enjoying Hellblade, or what was the other game I saw Snuggles playing? I was playing something else recently. I was playing that bike BMX bike game for a while. which actually looked really good. Sailor Mercury says, though it's weird Paper Mario is releasing full price. It's Nintendo.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Come on.
Is it? Wow,
mean,
I'm so surprised that it's releasing at
They
full
just
price.
don't
Wow.
do that, right? I mean, I don't feel like I don't.
What were
I
you
could be
expecting?
wrong,
Like
but I do.
$40 game by Nintendo?
Have they ever done Mario Karts? Were they 60?
Metroid.
Yes,
Remastered.
Mario Kart for 60.
Metroid was lower. Is that what you're
yeah.
saying?
so.
Oh,
Yeah,
I think
there you
so.
go. Okay,
Because
so there's
but
one.
that one isn't a remake. It's just a remaster. But it was awesome. With 60
Yeah.
FPS on the Switch.
Yeah, Nintendo's just it's just, it's just not going to happen. But yeah, thanks again, Snuggles. I appreciate it, man. I hope you're enjoying your weekend, if it's your weekend for you, because I think sometimes you have weekdays off. I could be wrong. Let's see. SBZ says, don't listen to Abzy. Please give me my physical version.
Hell no. I don't give a shit about CDs.
Tembo
man.
says, niche gamers like physical copies. You like to have something you can touch and look at. Yeah.
That's true. That's true. Having a collection is cool too.
Also, some people just want to have the sort of security that they can just slot in a game and play it.
For sure.
Unless it connects online to download the execution.
Yeah, you would hope so.
Yeah.
You would hope so.
But I agree with you. I know exactly
But I
where you're coming
mean,
from.
but that's been one of the main advantages of consoles for so long, right? But it's sort
Absolutely
of going away.
It is going away.
Yeah.
I'll join whatever fight to stop it, but it's gone. That's going away. At least it's not going to be a carte blanche. 100% of games will not do it. Some developers will make sure their game works day one, but or you get a Stellar Blade situation where the disc has an outfit on it that the game that got patched digital version doesn't, and people lose their shit. Flip Cup, $10 super chat. Howdy, all. Cheers to Abzy for allowing me onto the V Rising server. Well, that's the $10. He actually wasn't going to allow you on. He was just going to leave you in the queue
exactly
to
log
on. But
hey, renting servers costs money, my man.
Hope
so
you all have a wonderful weekend. You know what
Yeah.
is weird about renting servers, dude? I was checking that out, and you and I have talked about it too. I'm really impressed with how cheap it is to rent a server. I mean, and they set up
it's like
sometimes.
$10 a month.
It's like $10 a month, and sometimes they'll have the set. You give them the, like you put the access code, you tell them the game code so they know you own it, and they'll install the back end for you, and you're just like,
they do everything.
They
just give you a bunch
awesome.
of. There's so many settings, dude. You can change so much in the game. I increased the day-night cycle. There's so many options, which is really really cool.
I've noticed it with. I did Operation Flashpoint for a while. I did the Angels Fall First. Angels.
Oh yeah, the one that you told me
and
to get, but you never played.
Well, yeah, I can't play it. The problem is to play it, I have to
there were
serve
no
it.
people.
No, I mean I have to serve it. My PC wasn't strong enough to serve and play.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
I rented one to test it, and it actually worked quite well because you're offloading all the CPU process onto another machine completely. Vantage Point says, appreciate you guys. Thanks so much for the regular hangout sessions. Always good to be part of a conversation in terms of gaming. Thank you very much. I appreciate it anytime you stop by. Flip Cup said he told me I needed to do that today or else I wouldn't be allowed up. Yeah.
Pay up, bitch.
Pay up, bitch, or you're not in. That's how the server rental goes. We pretend like you get into the Discord and everything there is free, but I have microtransactions now. Abzy is master of microtransactions internally.
Yes.
We sell it on the podcast. We'll be like, dude,
we don't actually give away game codes. We sell them.
We sell them to the gray market, whatever CD code, whatever CD keys. But no, we get you in, and then we just start saying, hey man, if you want into this other thing. And just DM me, and then we ignore anybody who hasn't bought the microtransaction. Love the games, $5 super chat. Still waiting to see more about Metal Gear Solid 3. We're playing the HD port. It has me wondering why it feels like stealth hasn't evolved past the PS3 era. I mean, I would agree with that. I think it's devolved in some places. Automatic cover in the Assassin's Creed games. I mean, have we had anything? Splinter Cell was after that, right? At least one of them. Metal Gear Solid, yeah. It doesn't feel like we've got... Oh, you liked Shadow of Erebon, though, right, Silver? You played Shadow of Erebon?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say...
Oh.
I mean, the shadow system in that game was kind of a neat gimmick, but I didn't think it really brought
But more
anything...
so a gimmick than it was like full stealth.
Yeah,
mechanic.
it's like a genre defining thing. Like I think it's different. I think it's like the fundamental like mechanics to a stealth game, I think, are so well defined, much like with much like with a first person shooter, that there are sort of core parts of that genre that it's difficult to sort of reinvent the wheel.
I absolutely agree.
They just gotta stop it
that.
with the tall grass, man. Like it's just they gotta chill with the tall grass. All these adventure games that have stealth, man, they just gotta not. But I think for me personally, the two games recently that have evolved in terms of, I guess, AI or that impressed me is The Last of Us 2 stealth, and what's the other one?
True.
And Metal Gear Solid was pretty good, but I didn't really. The Last of Us really impressed me with its stealth, like the way the enemies reacted when they found a dead body, or you know, their pathing and stuff like that was really good.
And I mean, there are also still stealth games like Invisible Incorporated.
Yes. Yeah, that was server based as well,
and stuff like that.
Wasn't that one that it was online as well?
No,
I'm thinking of a different game. I'm thinking of a different
Invisible
game.
Incorporated is the one that's basically isometric roguelike kind of in that, or procedurally generated levels. I think they were procedurally generated.
And then Christopher Rico says Dishonored evolved stealth. Problem is we'll never get a new one now. That was prior to now, my friend. No matter what, for the rest of the time, it'll be that people are going to pretend that there was already here's what we're going to start hearing. You're going to start hearing there was already a Dishonored being made. There was already a Prey 2 being made. And that, what was another one that they did? There's already...
Prey 2 was dude, Arx Fatalis remake was going to come out.
Yeah.
Fucking Dishonored 3 was going to come out.
It was stymied. 5, it was all on its way.
It's all canceled now.
It's unfortunate, but that's the way it will literally be that way. I've lived through this enough times to just see that will be how the thought process goes. Yeah. Melvin says, sorry guys, I'm late to the party, but aside from rumors and some obscure trailer, what's the word on Splinter Cell?
No, there has been none.
No word at all. The rumor is we're going to hear about it during this Ubisoft event. And I would love to hear about it, but I'm going to tell you guys the truth. I would even more love to fucking see something. I feel like every time we, hear about something with that game in particular, or we love this title, we know that you love it, that kind of stuff, it never comes out. So it's like, I want to see them show something that shows they're beyond the CGI trailer.
Oh, yeah. Right. Beyond the teaser. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, let's show something, man. Beyond Good and Evil, same thing. We now know that like there is still work, at least for now, going on that. It's like it's 13 years or whatever. It's been, some people were not alive when that game was announced, and they're now playing M-rated games because their parents let them play M-rated games. They're 13 years old. It's like let's start showing some shit. My Name is Mud says Mimi Games does stealth on PC. They did.
Yep.
That's true. They did. Not anymore, but unfortunately. Yeah. Melvin says 100%. It's like Bloodborne getting mentioned by Sony. Oh, look, name drop, and that's about it at this point.
Whenever I hear Bloodborne, I get a little, I get a little annoying feeling in my stomach. Like,
because you just know it's BS?
Just because, every time I hear, oh my god, when is Bloodborne remastered? It's like Half-Life. Remember how Half-Life 3, everyone was asking for it, and every time someone would ask for it, it's like, oh my god, Jesus Christ, it's never going to come out.
Okay, let me tell you someone who's in our shoes right now, and that is absolutely the Batman fans. They've been wanting Batman since Gotham Knight was over.
So they gave him a VR one.
They give him Gotham Knights, Suicide Squad, and a fucking VR game. And I can tell you, even if the VR game is great, because their original was great, I, as a non-Batman fan, was mad about that. It was like, what the shit is going on?
Same.
It's like a tease, man. I mean,
it's like asking Nintendo for Twilight Princess and Wind
Waker. It's like lingerie with a pair of panties under the pair of panties or something. You're just like, oh yeah, Skyward Sword, the remake. Yeah, that is true. That's a good one. Yeah.
No, it's so funny, dude.
But I just feel like Batman fans must be all, oh, for fuck's sakes, guys, come on. It's got to be a joke. Now, go ahead, Silver.
Like the Arkham games also were actually pretty decent examples of games that did try
stealth.
revamp stealth a bit, because like the difference in how they approach stealth is the focus on the verticality.
Yeah,
where so much of it is from like just striking from above.
And can I also add to that thought, Silver, that I firmly believe that they handled the theme impacting the actions, and the action is impacting the theme better than a lot of other stealth games, even good ones. Sometimes you get a game that handles stealth well, but it doesn't feel like you're doing anything but hiding in the shadows. That game was like, you are the shadows. You know, I am Batman. You were. And you had mechanics that it all sort of felt good. A little less, like you said, with Shadows of Urbon feeling a little bit like it was a gimmick. With Batman, it felt good, man. I don't know. Sorry, anybody who likes Batman games, but you ain't getting one. I don't know what's going on, but I feel like there has to be some internal.
Imagine having a money printer at home and being like, "Hey, I'm just not gonna print money."
Or you're printing fucking ones. You know, it'll print 50s and 20s and hundreds, and you're printing, you know, or $2 bills, which I don't even know if anybody takes anymore. And you're just like. It just doesn't make any sense. I don't get it. I'm assuming maybe it costs a bunch for the IP, but they own the IP. So, like, what would they be doing that would cost them anything? I mean, maybe they have to pay. Well, they don't have to pay anything. Maybe maybe with Suicide Squad doing poorly, it might push them towards doing a Batman. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it's weird.
Maybe they're like BioWare now. They're just done.
It could be. It could. That's absolutely possible. Go ahead, Silver. What were we going to say?
Also, actually, come to think of it, Untitled Goose Game also sort of had a different approach to stealth.
Is this a joke?
That is actually that is actually a stealth game in place where you have to go in and like steal stuff and whatnot without people seeing you.
That's like Neighbors from Hell.
Neighbors from Hell.
I miss Neighbors from Hell, dude.
Both of those games are a little. I had not. That's a. I thought you were teasing me completely because I thought in that game I thought I saw people quacking and chasing a lady, and so I thought it was more aggressive.
Because you do also do that. Like you do both things. There are times when you have to be stealthy, and then there are times when you have to be noisy. Yeah.
Well, I'm a goose. I feel like I'm always going to be noisy. I mean, if you've ever been around a goose, they're not very stealthy. They're like, I'm gonna fuck you up if you get your little kid over here. I'm gonna bite that little kid or beak him. Let's see. Filcher was a good modern stealth game. Filcher? I don't know what that is, Roduka. Filcher. Anybody heard of that? Never heard of Filcher. It sounds a little like slang for a dirty thing.
It's a first-person 2.5D noir stealth game.
Can I ask a question? How are you 2.5 if you're first person?
Because it's 3D. I don't know why they called it 2.5D. It's 3D with 2D assets, I guess. It's the opposite of 2D with 3D assets.
Oh, I see. Okay, that makes sense. Because I was like, how do you... It's isometric first-person immersive sim for sports simulation.
It is. Stealth immersive sim simulation single player.
Melvin Middleton says, I did hear that WB put the live service blame on Rocksteady, saying they wanted to do that. So, of course, the big wigs are shifting blame. Okay.
I think if you ever try to play the blame game in this industry, you're never going to win. You're never going to know. Yeah.
And even somebody said Big Mac, I'm not going to read that word out loud because I think he meant Felcher. He did. Yeah. Don't look it up. It's an activity. BBO says Arkham had great stealth parts, although that's pretty old now. It is old. I replayed that recently and very fun, but stodgy.
Yeah. Batman Begins had good stealth, didn't it? From what I remember on the PS2.
Batman Begins is a movie. Was there a game for Batman Begins?
Yeah, and it was like a full-on stealth game. You didn't really fight. Like I don't remember fighting in it. Yeah.
All right. Yeah. No, I don't remember that one. Thief Deadly Shadows for me was the last good stealth game. Speaking of all this kind of stuff, you guys will see a video from me. I would love for you guys to check it out. I know that we're a small contingent of the total subscriber base, but it is 101 video game cutscenes, quotes, or speeches, all of them merged together via theme. So if one character's talking about war, then the next cutscene starts out talking about war, and it moves on from there. It's 101 because I don't want to say this game's cutscene is number 89 and this game's cutscene is number 88, and have somebody be like, "Why? How did you mix those?" So what I did was I thematically mixed them. I hope you guys like it. If you did, I'd like to hear from you. If you didn't, I'd like to hear from you, just quietly and in no way, shape, or form that I can read or take in to my psychological, my psyche. Big Mac says, LOL, I only know that the word means... Oh, I only know what the word means because it was featured on Rocco's Modern Lig. You guys know what that is?
Some UK thing, I'm guessing.
These guys are bringing up shit I just never even heard of.
I have no idea.
Rocco's Modern Lig. I don't know what that is. That sounds like a bad...
Life.
It sounds like a bad knee. Like, I got a bad lig, man.
Modern life.
My ligament. Oh, modern life. He says lig. That's not on me.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, that's
not on me this time. He says, dude, that was so confusing. Okay. So I was like, what does that mean? Like, you speak the same language as me, and I don't know what that means. Roy says, it's amazing how Arkham games use less UE, and the Gotham Knights comes out with the latest and greatest and still looks worse than UE4's Arkham series. I do not think Knight looks worse. Do you guys?
No, I don't think so either.
I don't think Knight looks worse. In fact, I think Knight performed poorly, though. Knight had, remember the performance issues on Arkham Knight?
I mean, on release.
On PC.
Yeah,
that's what I heard.
Yeah.
Like when I played it, like 9 months ago, it ran fine. But
yeah,
for me, it just like fighting actually felt like ass. Like hitting people did not feel good. So
in the Batman games or in particular Arkham Knight?
Batman games had really good impact on the punches.
Oh, what were you talking
about? Gotham Knights. Yeah, it just felt, I didn't like the way you hit.
Yeah, Gotham Knights reminded me of the old game 2 Human, where you were like like Vikings in a cybernetic world, and you slid into enemies. There's something
with the curse. It was like with the curse.
Yeah, it was like the weird control scheme where you like held into the enemy to hit instead of hitting buttons. It was a you know, we talk about wanting game developers to experiment. Sometimes
that
what
was
you
a bad
get.
game.
That was the game we got after Eternal Darkness. From Silicon Knights.
From Silicon Knights. Yeah. CK didn't make good use of what they had, or GK, Gotham Knights. It seemed like a big city, but fairly dead. That makes sense. I get that. 2 Human was so bad that they offered it free on the Xbox. Still didn't download it.
We'll for sure get someone being like, actually, 2 Human was a really good game. People just didn't appreciate it.
So if Cadiz was on, he would, because Cadiz really likes that game a lot. I think it's the art design and the idea of Vikings in a cyberpunk world is pretty, because you know our D&D game.
Cool.
I like the idea of it, but at the same time, that one just did not work. You know, it's like it should have just been all cutscenes. It would have been acceptable to be that because the gameplay,
man.
Yeah, and they had a good loot system. I don't know if you guys remember, but they had a pretty in-depth loot system. But you just never wanted to get there because it was so, it was so raw. Moving on from there, we're gonna go into the next bit of news. Let's quickly read this. God of War Ragnarok, reportedly the next PlayStation exclusive to hit PC. Doesn't surprise anybody, right? That seems like a fair assumption, and
it does surprise me though that Sony itself is like phasing out first-party titles from their own subscription service.
Yeah, they removed them from the PSN Plus or whatever.
Yeah,
that is weird. Maybe they see that they sell a bunch and they just don't want to give up that cash or something. I would
assume so. That might be the driving motivator, but yeah. It does sort of significantly dampen the value proposition, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard. Doesn't it feel to you guys that if you want to do something on a subscription like Game Pass or what have you, you almost have to start from the start and know that that's what you're doing, so that you can sort of get on board. It's like when you start packing things in. I personally, let's say I sold 100,000 last year, and then you go on to Game Pass or PSN. And you see that drop down, it would bother me even if it was doing well. I would still be like, oh, but that
I guess
the person isn't buying it.
The problem for me is just that it feels incredibly half-hearted because you don't get games included at release
on
like
the
first-party titles
or PS Plus, yeah.
And now you also get them sort of phased out potentially down the road.
let's talk about a big title that's coming for sure to one of these subscription services, and it's called Little Kitty Big City. I don't know. I'm just joking. But this is it sounds really bad. And this is Silver wanted to talk about this game. It's called Little Kitty Big City. Okay, so spit knowledge. What is
it's
Little Kitty Big City?
Speaking of Untitled Goose Game, it actually reminds me a lot of that game, particularly in its aesthetic. It's you play as a little cat. You basically start out the game sleeping lazily on the windowsill in your perfect little spot. Then you fall out the window, and you have to embark on a quest to get back into your perfect spot. And do all sort of little tasks along the way. And like there's a lot, much like Untitled Goose Game, there's a lot of charm to the game, particularly to the way the cat is animated, much like there was to the way the goose is animated in Untitled Goose Game. Like it's genuinely adorable. It's charming. It's just lighthearted fun. It's really well done. The art style really works. It is basically the same art style used in Untitled Goose Game with like faceless human characters.
Human characters, right?
Yeah. And like that sort of soft, almost watercolor kind of drawn aesthetic. That really works for the game.
Did it?
I think.
Is it from the same people? Just weird question.
It is not actually. No.
Okay. All right. Because I got to shout out those devs and say, in the day and age of the Gears of War shadowing War Master, whatever, when you call your game Untitled Goose Game, you got some nuts, man. Yeah. I like that. It's not triangle strategy, role play, or whatever the fuck that game was. It's like it's just called Untitled Goose
Rise.
Infinite
Phoenix.
Rise of the triangle strategy. Even Octopath Traveler, I like the idea, but there were times where I was like, that's a little... I get it now and it all makes sense, but some of these games aren't great. Their names. Just Untitled Goose Game. And I almost corrected you twice to say what was it called, because it sounds like a project name.
It's Untitled.
Yeah, and you guys remember that was what Triangle Strategy, people thought that was the code name.
That was a code name.
Or okay, so it was, but everybody assumed it would change, and instead they're just like...
Same with Octopath Traveler. They were like, it's Project Octopath Traveler, which
really?
is the
okay, there you go.
project name, right? And then they
I
just
love
kept
the
it,
idea
man.
of like, Untitled Goose Game. We'll get to it in a second, and then at some point they're like, have we come up with a name? Duck Duck Goose? Nah, it doesn't sound good. Untitled Goose Game. Let's just see if that works. And it worked really well. That's awesome, man. So it's called Little Kitty Big City. It is not M. You can see it on Steam.
It is on Game Pass.
And it's on Game Pass. So there you go. I don't know. I just find that Little Kitty Big City sounds really dirty. But no, I haven't seen it. I do like those kind of games, and I saw people streaming that one, but the other one I liked, it is not a cutesy character, but I like Pool Panic.
Pool,
I like those kind of... You're a character that's doing something weird, and it's just a different thought process.
That was your game of the year that year, I think.
It might have been. Pool Panic didn't score insanely well or anything, but for pure fun and goofiness and what the F-ness, Pool Panic was really high, at least, on my list, for sure. I don't usually go with the others when it comes to, like... Or they don't go with me when it comes to Game of the Year. Usually mine's always a little askew because it's some indie game I've played. And then Pitman's asking us a question. Oh, how much is Little Kitty Big City? I feel like demonetized is just going to happen. But how much is Little Kitty Big City? Do you know? Silver, can you look that up?
Let me just look it up. Yeah.
You got a little kitty?
It's
kitty?
$23.
$23. All right. Pitman247 does a super chat. How do you guys feel about the gaming landscape in the next 5 years after the news happening in these last 2 weeks or so? No game or studio is safe, it seems.
I mean,
I
don't think games are gonna go away, but devs definitely have it worse. Sorry, go ahead, Silver.
That is the really scary thing, right? Is that success isn't a guarantee of enduring. Like that you'll still be open for business, because you can have a studio that has a really successful game and still gets shut down, as we just saw. So I think that is a new development, and I think it is a disturbing one.
I think also I'm accustomed to games that we like, and the company's still shuttering. Meme is one.
Yeah.
And I every dev I know in the 1990s or 80s were talking about, hey, we made this game, it's critically loved, but it didn't do well, or what have you, or we sold it at the wrong price. By the way, I'm not saying that's the same as what Silver's saying. He's talking about, in particular, doing well.
Games that have sold well,
yeah. But I do think that the what sells well and what makes money is now becoming an actual real discussion that I've wanted to have for years, and it's taken so long, but Remedy's a good example of it. A company that consistently has issues making money, which is what allows you to make your next game. And they not having made their money back from a critically and player-loved game, and game that I assume many bought. It wasn't on a subscription service. It was less. It was $10 less. It just seems to me like the industry, all industries, are facing this thing that the safety that might have been there, and we might lie to ourselves and say it was there more, but I know a lot of devs who shut down in my time, and I remember just for years always being mad about it. It feels like that
Looking
safety,
Glass being an obvious one, I think.
Thank you, because by the way, that was one of the examples. I think that when we look at whatever little safety net was there, that's not there. If there was a safety net, and like you said, if you do well, what's doing well mean? I mean, does it mean you're going to be able to make another game, the same game? Does it mean you'll be able to pay for the same number of people, less people? Because if you make $1 million on a game that cost you $10 million to make, so you make $11 million, you paid all your stuff off, and you've only got $1 million, is that equal to another game being made in the current environment, which it might not be? There's all kinds of things that have to do with this, and it just sucks. I mean, that's the thing, is we can sit here. I've lived with it. I feel like I've always felt every year this happens. It's definitely worse this year. No doubt about it. It's terrible this year. But I feel like there's a lot of companies I've liked that have gone away, that weren't bought by somebody. They weren't whatever. They just, maybe they disappeared. I don't know.
I think that's true, but I don't think. But I mean, I think the change here is that we have titles that sold well, like Evil Within, right? That were successful, but then
I don't think Evil Within made. I don't think even after the sales
and where I
did
think
well, though.
It like decent sales or good sales aren't necessarily, because I think one of the key reasons Microsoft did this was to increase, not so much like a lack of sales, but to increase their growth, because they have to do that for shareholders. Where they haven't, that is one of the big things for a shareholder company, where you have to sustain growth because investors want return on their money. So they want their stock to be worth more the next year than in the year where they purchased it.
Yeah, so it's just odd to me, because those, we saw the rumors about those companies being shuttered prior to Microsoft buying them.
And growth isn't necessarily related to profits, because growth is just the perception of value.
And the big hole when they bought Bethesda and when they bought Activision now becomes the weight when Game Pass isn't doing incredibly well, or we're not seeing those growth patterns. And this is something that bothered me a little bit when, like, Concrete Genie, I bring up a lot because I like them. They went away, and then there were some other studios that the VR studio for Sony, which went away, that did Firewall. I believe they're the ones that went away. And yeah, it just feels like there is that, but I think it's bigger than that. I honestly do. I think, well, okay, how about this? It's all money. Everything's money-based. But I feel like it's never going to go away. And if people assume somehow it just feels to me like this is the industry now. I don't know, man. It sucks. But I feel like it's been the industry for years. And I guess maybe just because I liked some games that didn't cause their devs to continue, I probably just remember those, so I feel like I'm always experiencing this. I really do feel like a bunch of friends have left in the last 20 years. That's how I felt.
Oh, for sure.
Even prior to starting YouTube, I just was like, I would look back at a game company And, you know, we don't know what sales means because we don't know if it means profit, and we don't know how that profit pays off in the future. But I would look at these companies and go, I think that sold well. The number seems high. They have 80 employees or something. How is that, you know, how's that not working for them on the next step? How's that not turning into something? But yeah, it's definitely money. It's definitely investors for Microsoft. Different companies that have done this, we don't, you know, that's the one thing is that unfortunately it's happening.
Yeah, it varies from case to case.
Without investors, yeah. Yeah, I don't know, man. It sucks. It's one of those things that I think we're just going to have to look at. The question was, what do we feel in 5 years? And personally, I would say I do not feel like I guess that's my thought, is that I do not feel that in 5 years we will be not having this discussion again, even if the industry is doing well. Because remember when the industry was doing well, which it was, COVID prior, there were still companies going away all the time, and it feels like we're just it just feels like it's the grind of game dev. There was a game dev that was asked about the thoughts on this. I think it was PC Gamer, and his thoughts were pretty cogent, where he said the one thing about video game development over many other things in life is that its risk versus reward is insanely high. That the risk part of it, no matter
that's
who
definitely
you're working
always
for,
been true.
is like, yeah. And he didn't like what was going on, but he said the one thing people forget is that the risk versus reward, even if a company wants to support you or an investor, because, by the way, many small indies get investors, and it just feels like we're screwed in a way. I don't know how to get out of it, because people will say, oh, it's microtransactions that caused it all. That doesn't make any sense. Yeah. I don't think that's related to. I mean, it's related. They're all related, but yeah, it's a shitter. In 5 years, do you guys see it getting better in 5 years?
I think
No.
The market's gonna keep going normally and it's gonna have high times and bad times, and there are times that they're gonna be looking for and hiring a ton of developers, and then there's gonna be times where they're gonna lay off a bunch of developers. It just happened a lot in the past couple of years because of the COVID bubble, where, you know, it changed a lot of things and it was unprecedented. So I don't think it'll be to this extent, but there'll always be layoffs and always be, you know, other stuff too. Yeah.
I mean, it also depends on what you mean by better, right? Do you mean?
Well, I don't know what I mean. He just asked what we feel in 5 years.
Will gaming be less of a risk proposition?
That's a
going
good
forward?
question.
I definitely don't think so.
You know what really sucks? Is that I'm sitting here looking at the new Unreal advancements that they just patched in. That they patched in yesterday or today into the Unreal Engine. And I look at Unreal and I think Epic went out of their way. Agree, disagree. They have money tied up in all kinds of things, good, bad, what have you. They said, okay, you don't have to pay us for the engine, right? And you can make these games. And they have a certain number that if you sell a certain number, I think you have to pay them. But it's like you can make a somewhat successful game without any cash to Epic or to Unreal. And I see the ability in a developer's hands to make better stuff more easily. But it also feels like the chaff is incredibly high too. And I've stated this for years. I already felt it with Facebook, but it feels like the ability to get attention, as the Dead Souls developers just did with Prince of Persia, and they said, we're going to push it. It feels like it's not just money, it's also just mind share. You know, it's like getting somebody
research.
Getting somebody involved and somebody not saying I'm going to wait and then never going back to it. Which we just had somebody yesterday who was talking in our chat, just one person. It's not an example of any kind of metric. But it was interesting to have them say, oh, there's like 10 games KARAK just mentioned, and I own them. I don't own any of them, but they're all on my top like 10 to get list that was 6 years old. And you're all, well, how long are you going to wait? I mean, at what point do you go back to play that game? Or do you just keep holding off? And that you can't tell a dev to feed their family or to make a financial decision on your desire to play their game versus your purchase of their game, which is what a lot of devs say, which is if you believe in us, buy the game. You know, and I think even Game Pass devs would tell you that. I think. I mean, I don't know if that's true, but I feel like even Game Pass devs who do really well, because we have had some that have talked about how well they did, would probably say, still buy the game, please. When it comes to better, that's a good point. I guess we'll just say risk versus reward will be the same, right? We don't see that going away. Yeah.
No, I don't, unfortunately.
Either do I. Yeah, it sucks. Pitman, $10 super chat. Thanks for all that you guys do. Industry be damned. Appreciate it, man. I definitely do. I definitely appreciate it. JB says backlogs are too big, plus forever games. Yeah. Forever games eat up your design. If you're doing Sea of Thieves, it's hard for you to jump into another game because maybe you're enjoying Sea of Thieves. You don't think of going back to it. Let's see. Nintendo's the only company that uses all their legacy IPs. They do not use all of them, but they definitely use many. But they are sitting on many old.
How
ones.
many years has it been since we got F-Zero?
Star Fox,
F-Zero. Yeah.
I mean, Star Fox has gotten a bunch of entries over the years, though it has been a while since the last one.
But it's been a while, yeah.
But like F-Zero, we haven't seen anything since the Super Nintendo days.
Is F-Zero? It's been so long since I've.
Or did we see one on the 64?
Says, where the hell is Star Fox?
They keep them alive, and they keep them alive in Super Smash Brothers.
That's actually what I was just going to bring up. Was I wonder if they fulfill their own internal. You know how when you talk to a person, you can feel better if you're having a hard time. You vent, and sometimes it goes away. I wonder if subconsciously they're like, we'll put them in Smash Brothers, but we'll look at Star Fox later, and then they just never get back to making the game because they just.
I would actually really like
Smash
to see
Brothers.
them do another Pilot Wings.
Yeah, so would I.
Pilot Wings also has gotten another
Wars.
entry since those days.
Yeah. Yeah, there was good stuff. Blast Corps
That was such a fun, unique game.
64.
Just the parachuting and the flying and the jetpack and
Nintendo has a good way of finding a game that you would think is normal and isn't special in its genre too much. But there's always something in it, that like even if I don't like the game, I do know why people like it. I'll be looking at it going, doesn't look like it's for me, doesn't sound like it's for me, but then I'll see somebody play it and go, oh, there's this little thing, Nintendo. It's like Nintendo has somebody whose job is to rub off a little dirt into every game. Like they just go to every developer and they're like, yeah, this is normal. Let's do this. Let's do this little side thing. Have they ever had a generic game? Has Nintendo ever had a... I'm not talking about Rare when they were working with them, but I mean Nintendo themselves. Has there ever been a game that was considered widely like just generic from
probably
Nintendo?
One of the probably Pokemon, right?
Pokemon,
really...
yeah, but that's not them either. That's that other company, right? The
like
Pokemon company.
Pokemons.
And,
yeah, later Pokemon.
And Pokemon only sort of became generic by not really evolving or sticking to what defined the genre to begin with,
which is evolving,
Pokemon,
which I like. I like the idea that the very game is about evolving and training stuff. They don't change shit in the game. That's funny. It's like, why don't you guys evolve? Yeah. Punch Out is another one. Somebody said I would love to see a boxing, arcade boxing game.
I mean, we did see Punch Out across multiple generations, Super Nintendo, Wii, and stuff, at least. But it would be nice for the new one. Yeah.
We did? Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't think I played it on the Wii. I don't think I got to play that. Moving on from there, talking about business is over for a couple minutes. Well, no, it's not. I'll go through this quick. Bandai Namco recorded highest net sales to date in 2023. Armored Core 6, Tekken 8, and Elden Ring performed very well. Good for them. All good games from what I understand. I wasn't as high on Tekken 8 as I think a lot of people were. I'm still trying to find what's good in Tekken 8, or what is, for me, what's good. But yeah, they did quite well. And Abzi liked Armored Core. Did you guys do, and we all did Elden Ring? Silver, you did Elden Ring, right?
Yep.
Yeah, of course. Okay. Good for them. Did you guys also see Capcom's doing well, too? Capcom's got some bangers, man.
Capcom and Bandai have been rocking it, man. Even Sega, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, Sega a little less so, but yeah, Sega.
A little less.
A little less so, but yeah, Capcom is I mean, they're their own, they're not making hardware or anything like the other big ones, but yeah, they've done quite well. And then let's talk about this for a second.
They also have a significantly diverse catalog. Capcom, sorry.
Capcom, yeah, no, they do,
Yep.
and also I just got to be honest, they do a lot of remakes. They're they're literally in the remake business, or a part of them is. So it's like if you have a problem with remakes and you have a problem with that, Capcom is in that conversation. Chris String from he does Business Industry Biz, I think is what it's Game Industry Biz, the website. He is breaking down numbers, and he said, here's what he says about last year. Last month, I apologize. All three major consoles continue to post declines, with overall console sales down 30% year to date. So far this year, Xbox Series consoles are down 25%, PS5 sales are down just over 25%, and Switch sales are down 38%. It's a situation that's likely to continue until we have a sight of new hardware or major game releases to boost sales. Here's the question I have about this, and it's about the PS5. When he says new hardware, do you guys think anybody means the pros? The pro versions of hardware? Because I don't. I don't think pros have moved the mark, right? Have pros ever? I mean, I feel like Slims move the mark for people who maybe don't care about a CD, or whatever choice they've made.
Like maybe the One X did a little bit for Xbox.
What was that? The Serpico? No, not Serpico. The
Scorpio.
Yeah. Serpico would be an amazing name. The Serpico edition. That would be awesome.
You get Al Pacino.
Yeah, you get Al Pacino out there. I'm a cop. I'm a cop. I'm a cop. Yeah, dude, I would love that. But I think for the most part, nobody's talking about the pros. They're talking about PS5 and Xbox. And Abzi brought up something, or has continually brought up, that he wasn't incredibly impressed with this gen. And what makes me wonder what's going to happen is with the new consoles, Microsoft is saying, and they're pretty heavily touting, the most powerful, blah, blah, blah. I don't know if power matters as much as long as there's some equality. If they're somewhat equal, whatever. We look at the Switch. Obviously not as powerful, doing pretty okay. Switch is in a somewhat acceptable place in its console sales. So what's a PlayStation 6? What's it going to do to reinvigorate if it's just sort of like a PC card and CPU upgrade in your PC? Like what is a console? What would a console need to do to reinvigorate?
Well, everyone only cares about frame rate anymore, so it's just fuck it, man. Just go to 120 FPS, and then have people get pissed off when a game is 60 FPS. That's
and tell you they've always got sick all their life at 60. That they can't. Yeah, they get motion sickness at 60. What about you, Silver? Is there something I don't know. Is there something in, or is it Nintendo? Is it Switch 2 that would interest you more than Xbox or PlayStations? Is there anything in the console department that would light your fire?
Definitely nothing graphical at this point. No higher resolution or even necessarily frame rates beyond 60 wouldn't interest me either. It would have to be something related to storage or something like that, or convenience of installation convenience, or
sure, yeah,
or whatever, logistical stuff like that. I think more than the technical performance aspect of games that might interest me.
So these are backwards compatible, right? Where here the really cool leak that happened yesterday took old patents from the Switch 1.
That would also be a huge one.
What would be?
Backwards compatibility.
Oh, okay, yeah. So so they were breaking it down, looking at the new power on the Switch 2, and they were saying that the one thing about the Switch 2 being backwards compatible would be a big deal. But I do think the backwards compatibility, bear with me because I'm not saying it's bad, but I think there's something to be said about a game that cannot be done on a system that is currently being sold, that is the light version. There's something about it that just, it's FOMO maybe, but when you say here's your PS4 and here's your PS5, and they both can play this game, there's something about that I think speaks to gamers. Could just be the power heads gamers, the people who want the best of the best, and it maybe even doesn't have anything to do with 60. It has to do with just having the newest of the new. But I feel like the more backwards compatible we go, the more the generations spread out, and then the excitement goes down because you're pretty comfortable where you are, or you may be comfortable. I'm not saying everybody would be comfortable, but I've just wondered about that. When I look at when I hear people talking about what excites them personally, it'll never happen. But I'm just going to say it. I think that their prices now are getting close enough that while the gap is still big between a console and a PC in price, you're still getting up there, and they don't drop a lot of times. Like I feel like these consoles haven't dropped. I'm probably wrong on that. They probably dropped 50. Maybe they've dropped 100. But I still feel like they're super expensive, and that people look at them and they look at a PC and they're all, maybe I'll get a PC Mini. Maybe I'll get something that's a little bit more powerful. Go ahead. What were you gonna say?
I think it's interesting if you look at like the evolutionary life cycle of Nintendo's handhelds, starting with the Game Boy, then on to the Game Boy Color and the Game Boy Advance, like all the way up to the Nintendo DS. You were backwards. Every stage of the life of the evolution was backwards compatible.
True. Yeah.
So the Game Boy Color allowed you to play original Game Boy games. The Game Boy Advance allowed you to play Game Boy Color, original Game Boy games, and the Nintendo DS allowed you to play Game Boy Color, Game Boy games. So like the game library kept expanding, available for those platforms up until the 3DS. So I think maybe some kind of return to that would be something that would be really, really welcome. Because that was an amazing thing. Like the library for the DS was just astonishing back then. For that reason.
Yeah. I don't know. Somebody said the cost only went up. So you're saying that the Xbox and the PlayStation have raised from their initial prices? I don't know if I've seen any news of that, but that's interesting. I haven't seen that. Is there anything else, Abzi? What about so ray tracing? Honest truth, I don't love ray tracing, but I'd like it to be at a frame rate that's acceptable without turning it off and having all these caveats. That would be one bonus I would see from new gen, being able to have.
I want like
RTS.
Hear me out.
I
want trophies and achievements not to be a thing anymore. And
yeah.
Listen, I know it's stupid, but I feel like a lot of games have been designed around this completionism aspect that people get so pissed if they miss something. Like they need to, like, I feel like a lot of devs are very scared of making missable content, where they want, like, I think the whole concept of platinuming a game goes into the design of the game, and I just dislike that a lot.
I think it'd be really hard to argue too that when you hear about microtransactions impacting a game's design, that you cannot or should not add in that trophies don't. Because I feel that they do.
Oh, for sure.
We've heard devs talk about, we've made sure that those people want to do this and that. And, dude, it definitely impacts it when you start to see it.
I feel like game design itself is suffering from it. Yeah, and I hope, I want game design to evolve in general, like gameplay loops.
Yeah. No, I get that. I mean, that is something, I don't see how it would ever go. It's like microtransactions. It feels like it's here, but it does feel like it would be not. Dude, I don't know if you guys remember, and I'm sure it's happened recently, but in the past, I do remember getting a game and getting excited. Hearing about a game, getting excited, going, and it used to not have trophies, and people would lose their shit.
Yeah.
And then it started leaking the trophies, and if you couldn't do it all in one run, people would lose their shit.
Yeah,
they're like, you can't do everything in one run. I'm like, it's a roguelike. What are you fucking talking about? Of course you can't do it.
There were people who would rate a game like Peter Jackson's King Kong that had 7 achievements to get you to 1,000 gamer score or whatever. And then that would make them rated very highly or whatever for that reason.
Barbie, I think Barbie was one that had really easy, I don't know what it rated, but looking in here, completion isn't really necessary in game design. Yeah, that is true. I'm going to scroll back up. I asked people what do you want from a next gen? Chris says, we only have one generation of pros. We don't have enough data. Maybe the advancements have a more meaningful impact. We've had many pros. Well, I consider the Scorpio a pro. over the Xbox. The Xbox 360, you could take Pro away and just add in die shrinks, which for sure happened, as well as memory architecture happened on the 360 when they went to 4 gigs on the... That was the Halo 360, I believe, that switched to 4 gigs. But you're right. The Pro thing in particular is not necessarily hugely thought out on what I asked. That's a good point. Packy says, there's a rumbling of there being no future for console exclusives. Sailor Mercury says, playing PS3 games natively on PS6 might actually pique my interest. Interesting. Okay, did not expect that. Mass Produced says 60 frames is a must. Juan says, have DLSS work with backwards compatible titles. I believe that for sure. I'm there for that. Melvin says, I still think there's a lot of untapped potential with this gen, so the fact that they talk about a PS6 has already been mentioned is crazy. They're still making games for the old gen. Nintendo's the king of, you don't know what you want until I show it to you. That is true. That is very true. That's a good point. Mike says, with how this gen has went, there's zero chance of me investing in a new PlayStation or Xbox. Mustard says, Costco has a PS5 bundle for $550 that includes 2 controllers and Spider-Man 2. Yeah, remember when control bundles always had a game? Well, you guys might not. That is pretty old.
Oh no. It was going for a while, man. I remember, like, every time you buy a console, it's like, oh, what games came with it?
It was so great. It was, dude. And I remember, and by the way, this was not always done. It was actually, I think, only for one gen for a while, but the occasional system that would come with 2 controllers. It's not necessarily ever been repeated, but that kind of stuff, and it might have even just been a special deal at the time. But the game, you know, you got your $4.90, whatever you paid, I can't remember, but you'd get your console, and it would have the controller, and it would have a game. And
like the game would go into your buying decision. Like it would be like,
it
oh,
absolutely would. Yeah, and because remember back then they also had the platformer racer fighter. That was the thing.
Yeah.
If you didn't have a platform racer fighter, you couldn't even, you know, the idea of releasing a new gen was sort of weird. And now it's like nothing needs to be released. Nothing. It's iPhone. And that does bother me that we're iPhones, the consoles are iPhones now, where there is no guarantee of any, here's the thing. It's just, here's the thing. And then from there, yeah, but I made many choices on the game. That was in fact, there used to be slightly different pack-ins. You'd get like a Costco pack-in or Fred Meyer pack-in. You'd go, I don't want that game with my system. I want this game or what have you. That was awesome. Game pricing is still the number one reason. That went away. I apologize. I'm going to get... Oh, man. Sorry. Chat moved while I was reading your thing. It wasn't a super chat, but I missed it. I'll just assume he said game prices are the number one thing that still hold gaming back. That sounds fair. I'll pretend he said that. Let's see. What else? A lot of games still on the PS4 and Xbox One. PS5 still comes with a game. Does it? I didn't get a game with my PS5.
Game Astrobot, the demo for the controller. People
that's
like
not
that
a real
one.
game. I don't think. I mean, okay, maybe that's elitist of me. That's probably elitist. Cantankerous says not interested in pro models, but I hope consoles never go away. I'll be here waiting when the next gen Xbox comes out. Doc says, remember, whenever the game would be totally different on different platforms, like Jurassic Park, Genesis,
each
and
port
SNES.
was different. Yeah, or like Doom 64 or Wolfenstein 64. They were different than the other ones.
Yeah, man, those were good times. I would say also with the consoles, it's diminishing returns. We're now fully in the diminishing returns because there is no gen. They've made it pretty clear that they're going to be backwards compatible, which I don't have a problem with. But it also means that they don't have that desire to make sure their game releases on the same day. Because you used to have to also have a pack-in, and now it's digital. So they can say, oh, the game's delayed a little bit while we patch it or what have you. So you don't go to the store anymore to get it and go, boom, I've got this brand new
GPUs come
thing.
with some games.
I know, GPUs come with more games than consoles do. Dude, GPUs come... Remember when Ubisoft was throwing a game and like... was it AMD or NVIDIA? But they were throwing a game
Valhalla.
into... Yeah, well...
Valhalla and Legion, both of them would come with them.
Oh, no shit?
GPUs,
oh, there
I
you
think.
go. Yeah, I was thinking prior to the PS Connect or the Ubisoft Connect being a thing, but I do remember getting games with. Yeah, definitely getting games with. I think I'm sure you still do. They're a code though, right? Yeah, they're not. Yeah, they're not.
Yeah.
They're
Code.
a code, of course. I don't know why I said that out loud. My
CD-ROM.
GPU came with 2 games. 2 games.
Yeah. I got Starfield.
I got Starfield was in there. My GPU came with Valhalla and Watch Dogs. Oregon Fresh just said, so you're right. So what GPU is that? I'm assuming that's AMD.
30, right? The 30 series came with Valhalla and Watch Dogs?
That would be NVIDIA.
Oh,
all right.
AMD? I don't know. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, that's pretty cool that you get a game. Yeah, you should get a game with a console. You should get okay. What if a console came with 1 year of Game Pass, 1 year of PSN? I think that would be good, minimum.
Yes. Yeah. That would be perfect. I mean, you have a whole library. That would be 1 year is a lot though. But that would be awesome. Yeah. But I feel like but that would be good. Yeah. Because you'd have a whole library, not just one game. Right?
I know. I hate, yes, it would. But it's like they say they're losing money when they sell consoles, or there's a razor thin margin aside from Nintendo. PlayStation has gone back and forth. Some leaked documents indicated that maybe they weren't they were losing money, and I think they've said they weren't. Whatever. They're close. We'll just say that. And so the idea that I don't care about that hardware, get it to me at a cheaper price, and then give me a reason to invest back in on the games and Game Pass being a year or something. I think Game Pass was a year for a while. I feel like it was. I could be wrong. But I feel like in the heyday, it might have been a year. Maybe it was just 3 months. 3 months sounds more realistic. A year would be a long time. What's Game Pass and PSN cost now? They're up in the $20. I just pay automatically because I'm always reviewing games.
Same. I don't even know, dude. I stopped the PSN subscription because...
Yeah, I did. I pretty much did because it's not day one, so it's a little less useful for me. But while you look that up, Sailor Mercury says, yes, adding the subscription should be mandatory for paying that much for a console. That would be great, right? Just 1 year of whatever.
It definitely would be great, yeah.
Yeah.
Man, my digestive system is fucking my asshole right now. Sorry, so that's way too...
That was way too graphic. Do you have to go?
Yeah.
Or at least for a second? Or at least for...
I'm chilling. I'm just going to look... weird,
like this sweat as you're I'm trying to not poop myself.
Yeah.
Abzi has a sick tum.
There was an outbreak recently in a restaurant with the bacteria that makes you get paralyzed and shit and lethally. That one's scary. I don't even
know what bacteria that is. I thought you were going to say like
botulinum.
Oh, botulism. Botulism.
Yeah.
The other thing, while we're talking about incredibly cool stuff, let's just jump straight to another case of basically a company that's their own version of a disease, which is EA. They stated that they're going to start looking at putting in-game ads in AAA games. We'll be thoughtful as we move into it. First of all, ads into games. Can I do this again? I just want to point something out. Saying that you'll be thoughtful is really redundant because you would have to be thoughtful by placing them in the first place, even if you weren't thoughtful once you chose.
Into it.
Yeah. It's the dumbest way of pretending like I hate that kind of comment. And it's a PR speak, but that's the dumbest comment, man. But anyway, so they want to put ads into AAA, and Abzi and I talked about Monster Energy drink and Death Stranding. I want to ask you, Silver. My opinion was that I don't care if it's a real product as long as it's not overdone, because I actually find a little bit of realism when I'm, let's say, driving around and there's a Pepsi sign. Do you feel that way, Silver, or you completely don't like that? Or are you in the middle, like for material items?
I think there's definitely a balance you can strike there where you can use genuine brands to add sort of immersion and believability to your game world, but it can also very quickly flip and then to where it brings you actively out of the game world.
Can I suggest a comparison for you? Because you'll know James Bond. They used to have none, and then there's a Pierce Brosnan Nokia, I think it was, but that shit was on he'd even hold the phone a certain way. Continue, but yeah.
No, but yeah, for sure. But I mean, also in games where you have like Verizon and Energizer in Alan Wake back in the day, as some I remember. So I think definitely there's a balance you can strike where you can include that stuff for active benefits in games, but it can also very quickly just become distracting.
By the way, side note.
Go for it.
Side note: Game Pass is first 14 days is $1, and then it's $10 a month
For the basic Game Pass. I think Ultimate.
for the Game Pass
with both of
PC.
them, yeah.
But it's all the games. I mean, Ultimate only gives you some discounts and perks and shit, and online console multiplayer. But PC Game Pass is just $10 for everything.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. That was the one thing Lucitan and I were talking about, is that
That's
Game
why all the
Pass will raise
companies
their
are
price.
gone.
That game is going to raise. They're going to raise their price for sure.
Yeah.
So Silver, I agree with you. Like when I had forgotten about Energizer, but you're absolutely right. Like Energizer was there, but I didn't notice it because it was pretty. It wasn't James Bondish. It wasn't like in your face. And even though it was up there. It definitely was on the screen. But I agree with you because like once it's in there, right? And then it just progressively gets worse. So it's like I like the idea of
once you start noticing, you don't stop noticing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know, man. And then Abzi and I were talking about Death Stranding, which it was either patched out or it goes away halfway through the monster. He said that there's a beer guy.
No, it doesn't go like in the original game. It never went away. It was no. You had monster drinks throughout the original game.
He said that they replace it because you help a guy.
Once you help,
Sorry,
I don't know if it's a side quest or a main quest, but they replace the ones in your room. Like it doesn't say monster, like you don't see the monster energy cans anymore. They get replaced with the beer or some shit. I don't know if it was beer or some
brewer you help as a quest.
Right? I don't know if it was a side quest.
I don't remember that at all.
Yeah.
Well, I can tell you, I don't remember Death Stranding at all. So I'm just going to have to believe both of you. I'm going to have to merge it and pretend like you're both halfway right. I will
definitely
say,
like the director's cut has completely changed the branding to something else entirely.
Yeah. It's fake. It's fake.
Yeah, yes, it's fictional.
The Saber game, a hot chick game, Stellar Blade.
Oh yeah.
In Stellar Blade, they have these cans she gets from all of the machines. And I got to admit, okay, let me explain this. The cans have a pretty cool design, but the first time it popped up, I wasn't disappointed it wasn't Monster. I think I was surprised it wasn't like Monster or, whatever, one of these hundreds of Rogue Energy or something. It was whatever it was in there. And if it had been Monster, it would have been egregious because you're pulling it out of a machine and she shows it to the camera. And that's the difference I need. If it's on a table, I probably wouldn't have an issue. But if you like buy it from a machine and then the character shows it to the fucking camera, that's the difference to me. And it's like Bond. Bond used to have occasional ones, and then for a while Bond got really bad where you would see the front of the car, they'd make sure you knew exactly what the brand was, even more than the
Brosnan years.
Especially Brosnan, and me, I love Brosnan, but his movies in particular felt just egregious. Like they were right there. You couldn't. There was no way you could see it.
But did it in a smart way where they put it in your face, Burger King, but they were like, oh, like they straight up said, oh, the show needs money, so here's this, and they're like, Burger King.
That reminds me of. Did you ever watch the one with Dana Carvey and Wayne's World? Because in Wayne's World, they get halfway through the movie and they're like, we need to pause for a sponsor break. And they're eating Pepsi. And I was like, that's honestly, if they get paid for that, if that wasn't an in-joke and they got paid for that, which they would, that's incredibly smart. It's like we've talked about me doing a sponsored video where it's just 50 minutes of me doing just sponsors and no actual game content. It's like, in a way, that's sort
I feel like
works.
Remedy can pull some meta shit like that.
Remedy could definitely pull it off.
We need more money, guys, by the way. You haven't noticed. Yeah.
Did you guys ever play Pepsi Man or whatever those old games?
Pepsi Man. That was a good-ass game.
There was Pepsi Man and there was the Cool Spot.
Cool Spot. And the Burger King guy.
Sneak King. Straight up.
Sneak King.
Good game.
Yeah.
I don't care what it's not good. It's good it's bad, but it is hilariously creepy and fun to play, but it is weird. Yeah. Burger King, Sneak King. They had 3 games, by the way. The only one people remember is Sneak King, but they had a deal and they made 3 slightly different styles of games. And Sneak King was the one that worked.
Was there a Ronald McDonald one? I feel like there was.
There has to be a Ronald. There has to be. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it wouldn't make sense like that they wouldn't when that was at the height. And at that time, Sega and Nintendo seemed more open to it. There was a Cheetos game. And then SPZ says, I played a Colonel Sanders dating sim.
Dating sim, yeah, that's a new one. That's on Steam. He's like
real?
a hot version. Yeah, it's a real thing. Yeah,
is KFC in
version
it?
I mean, it's Colonel Sanders. They call him Colonel Sanders.
Do they?
The title, but...
Really? Okay, that's awesome.
Let me just wait. Let me double check.
The Noid game. The Noid. Yeah, avoid the Noid. Yeah, there's a lot, man.
I love you, Colonel Sanders. A finger licking good dating simulator. Yeah, this is like. Is this there's
How
no
did
KFC
they get away with
cafeteria? I don't know. I don't see KFC in it, but there's a bucket.
Dude,
sometimes you
amazing.
do want to get greasy.
Yeah.
Oh no, it's published. It's published.
Why did you say it that way? That's disgusting, man.
Bro, published. I love you. The Colonel Sanders dating sim is published by KFC.
Okay, here's why I think it is. KFC is also like Wendy's, where they're on Twitter all the time. I wonder if somebody who works for them is pretty modern in understanding social media and all that stuff, and just was like, "Let's
KFC console."
Yep, KFC. Yeah, KFC console. And the Dune popcorn thing for the Dune movies. Oh man, I can't get greased out of my. It's making. That's disgusting, man. That's actually stymieing me from what I was going to read. Good combo breaker, Silver. Now I'm never going to forget that.
To oblige.
Yeah. It gave me a bad taste in my mouth, man. It's gross. Okay, real quick. Other stuff from the industry. Did you have anything, Abzy, that I've missed before I move on to the next thing? Did you put any links into the Discord?
No, but what's been happening right now, the Arena Breakout, and people are still boycotting Tarkov, like the streamers. They're playing Arena Breakout Infinite. There's a lot of those clones. It's pretty, like... Yeah,
it's sort of a continuation of the already established bullshit.
It's sort of a continuation. I said it was kind of fun, but like it's honestly, man, I'm sick of this shit. Like it's just blatant like rip-off games. They just want something to play, you know what I mean? And I feel like the market is very empty right now. And I feel like now because it came out 2019 is when Tarkov really blew up, even though it hasn't really come out yet. So I think now is the time a lot of the games that are, you know, hitting the market are coming.
I had somebody join the Patreon, and they joined, and all they said was, at least it doesn't cost $250. And I was like, we are deep in the meme now. We're like way deep in the meme now. It's done.
And dude, when people are emailing, so there's like support stuff where you can message support in the Tarkov website, right? And they're being like, hey, I think that there's a bug because it says that I'm supposed to have all DLC because I own Edge of Darkness, but I don't seem to have all the DLC. Will you guys mail it to me?
Passive and then aggressiveness works well.
Yeah, and now they're quadruple downing or quintuple downing on like, actually, it's not a DLC. It's like a new game feature that, you know, we consider DLC.
Boy, that was, dude. That passive where you're not mad at all. You're like, oh, no worries. I was just wondering.
You do
and
that
everybody knows what you're doing, but if the person freaks out, they're bad. They're the bad so it's just like everybody's stuck in this stymied bullshit where everybody knows they're in a joke. Yeah, it's no big deal, you know, because I wasn't going to play it right away, but I certainly want to play it soon. That DLC that I don't seem to have it on my account. Could you please check into that? I'd really like to experience that. I was going to say, everybody, if you like this podcast up to this point, please take a moment right now, open up the video separately as a video, not just the little chat, and leave a comment. Or you might be able to leave a comment right now just in the actual video itself. I don't know how. I don't watch a lot of live streams, so I can't even remember. I usually use the chat. But anyway, you leave a comment. It helps hugely the channel a ton. I would absolutely appreciate it. And, of course, liking it. Next up, let's talk a little bit about... So we talked about God of War. The other thing was Fallout 4 is the #1 seller in April. Obviously, because of the show. But there's a little positivity out of that. Show was great. I've seen people say some things I don't agree with on Fallout 4, and I'm just going to say them right now. People are saying, oh, this was always amazing, or I'm going back
Right.
to it, and I skipped it originally. It or somebody telling them it's always an amazing game. It's like, listen, I get the thought of, I don't know, I get the social zeitgeist of it all, but
Stop rewriting history. Right?
stop rewriting history. Yeah, I was trying to figure out a way to say it without just cussing a bunch, but yeah, stop rewriting history. It's okay. It's okay that it did have issues, and it may not be the best thing ever, but I love that people are going back to experience it, and I wish it happened with Halo. I'm sure there's something with Halo. I'm sure there was a bump when the Halo show came out, even if everybody just tried to see if they could take the mask off and have sex in the game. But there's something there. And so the idea of it is really, it's exciting to me that people are going back to play those games, because while you may not have loved 4, or you didn't love that 1 and 2 were isometrics and they switched to first and third person, the fact is they're enjoyable. And it's cool to see people go back and play them. And it's unfortunate that Bethesda punched themselves in the nuts repeatedly and quite accurately with their patch, which is also news today, that they've announced that they have another patch coming that's going to fix the quality thing. Fix that. But, dude, Bethesda's your best friend who has good intentions and fucks it up every time.
I think it's
Every
also
fucking
important.
time. What?
I think
Go
it's
ahead.
also important to keep something in mind that you often touch on, Karak, which is everyone approaches or comes to these games from a different route.
Yeah.
Where maybe Fallout 4 wasn't the greatest thing ever. I bounced off it pretty hard, but someone else might come in, and for them it might well be the best thing ever. It might be their first Fallout game. It might be their introduction to the franchise and the concept that the franchise introduces, and maybe that resonates with them in a really profound way. Like there can be any number of reasons. Like I think it is very important to keep in mind that these things are going to be are going to vary from individual to individual depending on unique perspectives and experiences.
You just haunted me, because you just said something that popped into my head. What if their first experience was Fallout 76? Then Fallout 4 is going to feel a great deal better. Can you? And by the way, I'm not dissing on Fallout 76 now, but when Fallout, come on, we can all agree. Come on, day one. Let's be honest. So it's possible too that somebody's looking at Fallout 4 and saying, I'm going to return to it, and this is my only experience is Fallout 76, and that's cool. It's awesome. I'm happy people are getting to experience it. Yeah, it's very cool. But come on, Bethesda. Come on.
I'm gonna go die. I'm gonna go die.
All right.
Karak.
Do you have to go?
Thank you for having me. Yeah, I'm just.
Because I
I'm
gotta
gonna
change
fucking
my
go die.
Discord thing. Okay, go ahead. Talk to you later.
Take care.
Thank you for having me. Bye.
Yeah,
Holy
this video may mess up mess up is right. We're crossed in the middle. Give me 1 second while I fix this. Absy had to evacuate from the local area.
Yeah.
Let me get us fixed here. But I don't know, man. I'm really excited to see people doing it. I think it's awesome to see people jumping into that old game, and I hope more shows do this, man. I'm excited for any of these shows doing well to so that people jump back into games, as long as they're great or good. I liked it. I mean, I like the idea of it. Are you okay?
Yeah, for
Door's
sure.
open, buddy. Did you? Oh, go ahead. What were you gonna say?
No, but I think that I completely agree. I think that applies to all forms of like art generally, where things experience a renaissance, a rediscovery, and whether it's like old classical works or whatever it is, like people suddenly there's a zeitgeist or something that makes people rediscover a particular like fiction or license or whatever it might be, or a song or yeah.
Have you ever found yourself reading a book that wasn't based on a game? Because I know you probably are like me. I don't read many based on games, other than a couple prequels from like Ubisoft. Have you ever found yourself reading a book and going and finding a game world that is like there's some comparison, whether it be, I know you probably don't read like I do, where, I'm reading post-apocalyptic, or maybe that's not for you. But do you ever find or watch a movie? Did you? So when you watch Blade Runner, because you like the new one a lot, right? You like the new Blade Runner? Did you find yourself more interested in Observer or Cyberpunk or Deus Ex?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. Where you go back and
for sure,
revisit it?
because it feels inspired by that same sort of aesthetic and sensibility that captured my imagination when I first watched that. So like looking to sort of recapture that sense in a way through these other fictions that have sort of spawned from it in part, and also and also from like the graphical novels that also sort of helped spawn that aesthetic from Blade Runner, like Möbius's work and stuff like that, or Messier. Absolutely.
I found that Sid Mead, who did basically a lot of modern, almost blueprint style designs for his sci-fi work, which is what inspired Mass Effect. If I have his art books, so if I go back and look at one of his art books, I find myself like listening to the Mass Effect music, which then causes me to grab a book, which then causes me to, I don't go to the games. I'll just be honest. I don't go back to the games. But I do find this revolving thing where I'll be like, boom, 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 and go back. It's so awesome. The art book, Mobius and Sid Mead, Frank Franzetta, for me, Larry Elmore, but his stuff doesn't resonate in games that I've seen. Those are the ones that work the best, I'm assuming, because they're art and you see them, and then a game you can see. But something about that, calls me back.
But I mean, you also have stuff like The Witcher, right? Is a big example where look at what the video games have done for Sapkowski's books, where they've basically introduced an entirely new audience to those books who would never have read or bought them if not for the video games. Like a lot of people got into Lord of the Rings because of the Peter Jackson's trilogy.
Absolutely.
Like, and started reading those. It works across. It transcends all genres. I think it's great when stuff sort of reintroduces us to older stuff and makes us go back and revisit and maybe regain new perspectives on, like, through a contemporary lens of how that stuff that was older is now and is perceived now.
Keep talking. I'm just gonna open the door. Oh, he left. All right.
I mean, it is to me one of the most sustaining and enjoyable pieces of art, because experiences of art changes over time and through your own experiences. So you might experience or see a painting that resonates with you in a particular way when you're 16, and then you might see that painting again when you're 40, and it might resonate with you in a much different way. And that is, to me, like the transformative part of the transformative nature of art.
So here's something weird for me, and straight up, man, I don't like the music from the Fallout era normally, but Fallout 4's music and Fallout 3's music, I find that I've gone online and been like, music inspired by the Fallout games, and they might be missing some of the dark humor because those are created to replicate Fallout. Right. But there's still, that entire time base is still there, and that entire type of musical influence is there. I've definitely found myself liking music I never thought I would like because of a game, where I'll just be, if Fallout is probably the biggest example of that, where I was stunned that it made me actually collect and go out and look for those kind of things. Did you find yourself, when you played the first Fallouts, did Fallout 1 and 2 have music like that? I don't even remember. It's been so long.
They did not have like licensed soundtracks like that, no.
So I know you like a little bit more of so I'm more old classical, and then I miss that, the 50s. I'm not into that. But were you already into that?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Gotcha.
Yeah, because I was, as a young person, I was exposed to, like, I remember listening to, like, we had these CD collections of like 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s music. Mm-hmm. So I would like listen to all of it, and I would absorb all of it and have an appreciation for like the different nature of each of those.
Like the decades,
so I absolutely, yeah. I absolutely, I mean, I loved everything from Chuck Berry to more like sort of softer stuff that wasn't as quick, or slower stuff rather. Mm-hmm. So yeah.
Yeah, when I was a kid, we had the 8-track and the record player. And the 8-track, you push that button and it'd switch, boop, and it'd go to the next. And I remember listening to, that's where I heard like Fleetwood Mac the first time. But my mom and dad, for whatever reason, didn't go back as far as so I didn't really. My grandmother was a country. She liked country, so I heard that, but I never heard maybe a movie or something. I hadn't really heard it. And I know with Fallout 3, when that music started, and because I was modding it, and so it's crashing all the time, and so I heard that music 1,000 times, it just sort of became a thing where I was like, you know what? This is sort of, it's not something I listen to like on Spotify very often, but I do find myself, I do like it. It's just, it's a weird like. I don't know how to describe it. It's very odd.
I'll give you one example of something that worked that way for me. I think like electronic music and like dubstep is something that I don't regularly listen to, but sometimes that can really, really work as the musical layer for a game, and sort of the rhythmic beat and whatnot.
You and I agree on that, because I'm not a dubstep fan, but occasionally I'll hear a movie with it, or I'll hear a game where it's got, and I will be like, whoa, because there is a distinctively different thing going on there. Then a lot of times you can grab 10 times of electric music and it really doesn't, it sounds somewhat alike, but there's something about dubstep that I normally would never listen to. And then I remember, I think it was a remake of the trailer of, what's the movie where the girls are in the insane asylum, but they believe they imagine it's
Rodriguez. Sucker Punch is the one?
Yeah, Sucker Punch. Somebody cut a Sucker Punch trailer, unless this was in the original, which it might have been, but they cut a Sucker Punch trailer with a random dubstep music in there. And it was one of the first times I'd ever heard it. And I was like, what the is this? This works perfect. It works way better than anything else I could imagine. It just, but I don't go listen to dubstep. I'm like, I don't have a problem with people do, but I'm not grabbing a playlist of that. Looking here, people are saying Steve Miller Band on 8-track in my dad's modified van. Those are good times. Yeah, anybody, if you've had an overlap of fiction, not an overlap of fiction, but an overlap of art media, music, books, games that have driven you to another, I would like to know those experiences. Observer System Redux is so damn good. I liked Observer. Had some issues, but Woodpit says the first game type book was the Zank series. Zank is awesome. Mundane. And where they even had a border between them and Florida. Juan says, oh man, does anyone have a custom playlist you only use when playing a game? You listen to the music, though, like I do in games, right?
Yeah.
We don't.
It's pretty much the only games where I listen to outside music,
right,
or third-party music, you might say, is like Truck Simulator. Stuff like that, where I listen to radio stations while I drive, or like Flight Simulator or something like that.
Do you ever find yourself playing trucks? So I don't know what the term is. It's not lonely. I get a sense of solitude, and there's a difference to me between lonely and solitude. And I no reason to go into it, but when I'm playing Truck Simulator, many times I find myself yearning for hearing voices. So the CBs, in trucks, I can see why a truck driver might like that, because I find myself listening to podcasts when I'm doing that. So sometimes music, but many times I find myself like grabbing a podcast because the voices while I'm driving. I don't know what that is as well. Yeah, it's so good, man. Truck Simulator is so good.
I'm also like supplemented to like add immersion sometimes, where like in Euro Truck Simulator, I'll listen to like national radio stations. If I'm driving through France, I'll listen to a French one.
Right.
If I'm driving through Germany, I'll listen to a German one. And sometimes I try to do the same for American, where I listen to state radio, like Kansas radio or whatever.
Did you find that Fallout helped with the Pip-Boy radio? Because I do have the Pip-Boy radio on. Oh, it's low. I go into the options and set it low. But you have your radio stations. Did you find that help? Did you leave that on, or did you turn that off?
I did both.
Did both.
At times I left it on, and at times like I just needed peace and quiet.
Or if you're stealthing
or environmental sound. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, those are good times, man. Old Boy says multimedia is big with Japanese properties, manga, anime. Absolutely. Yeah. Obviously, I think it's probably even bigger than anything I'm talking about. Oscar says Mass Effect had led me into the Expanse TV show, which led me to the books, which led me to Hyperion, Cyberpunk 2077, and the Netflix show made me go read Neuromancer, which led me to Peripheral. By the way, Oscar, that's awesome. That's awesome. You're speaking my language, because all those I like, and that is the type of thought process I have in that is me. I love that. Nathan says, what What you're describing is exactly why podcasts are such a big thing for people with long commutes. Oh, for sure. Yeah. I mean, I would
Very
say
much.
20 or 30% of my Discord base are truck drivers, for sure. Bus drivers, truck drivers. I mean, I think that's how it's not how podcasts began, but it's, I think, the CB, it's sort of a natural progression, I guess, because I remember in trucks you would hear people on the CB even though they're not supposed to really chatter, they're chattering, or one of our movies like Big Trouble in Little China, where he's on the, he's like, Pork Chop Express is saying this and that, and he's just talking over the top of everything.
Or even before podcasts, like you had certainly in the cultural sort of depictions from American film, you had talk radio, right? And during traffic jams and whatnot, that people would listen to during their commutes.
Yeah, I love that kind of stuff. I love the cross. I'm trying to think of other things. Stranger Things, somebody said, got him into synthwave big time. I can see that. Stranger Things reminded me more of nostalgic stuff. I found myself watching like Pretty in Pink and shit, which that's not something I would choose to normally watch, but I definitely enjoyed that. Is there any other artists that you follow when it comes to art style, like art, not classical, but like Mobius or anybody like that? Because I know he also influenced that one sci-fi show, the cartoon you and I watched, the space sci-fi cartoon that came out about a year ago, where they go to the organic planet. They're on the organic planet. Do you know the one?
Oh yeah, the HBO Max one.
Yeah. Dude,
I think it premiered this year. I can't remember.
Was it this year?
What it was,
okay.
What it was.
Where you're looking for that, Scap
either.
says, I was at a thrift store and found Ink Spot's greatest hits CD for $1. They're the ones who sing I Don't Want to Set the World on Fire. Well, look at that. A little bit of background information there. I was not aware that that's who sang that, but
Scavenger's Reign was the one.
Scavenger's Reign. Yeah. I like that kind of stuff. I like that kind of art too. I'm not a big comic book fan, but I like art books. So
I did just pick up like 3 graphic novels today. I actually have right here, with Long John Silver being one.
Oh damn! That art reminded me of Bloodborne or something. That was interesting.
Yeah, it's really
didn't expect that.
It's really good.
Yeah, what one's that one? Go down a little bit so I can see the title. Or is the title? Oh,
it's just Long John Silver.
Black. Yeah, gotcha. Very cool. And that's a graphic novel.
Yeah. Also have I also got the Cuban Autumn. There's another one about a Danish war correspondent who served with Che Guevara during the Cuban Revolution. And Once Upon a Time in France, which is a very sizable one.
Yeah, that's very sizable. That reminds me of the omnibus I just got. I can't remember if it was Batman. I think it's Batman. I got a couple, but that thing is, I mean,
right.
I don't even know if I'll read it because it's so big that when you get those big books, they try to pull back in on themselves when you spread them. So I probably won't because I'm also nervous of damaging it, but I definitely like that kind of stuff. Did you find yourself ever watching or reading 13? The one based on the David Duchovny video game, or the video game was based on the show?
No, I never
French
actually.
espionage one?
I never did actually read that one, which might be weird because it is actually right up my alley.
It is up your alley. Yeah,
but
I expected
never
you to jump in there.
But I never really came across it, and I didn't actively seek it out.
Yeah.
So it never really entered my sort of orbit.
Yeah, I love all that kind of stuff whenever you find, especially because I used to go to the bookstore just to the art sections, and you'd find one of those artists that just, for whatever reason, appealed to me. That shit worked better than books for, like, giving me ideas for stuff. Go ahead.
As Oscar described, I think one of the most exciting aspects of art is the journey of discovery, right?
Yeah.
Just finding inspiration and where it leads you.
Dude, I used to open up an art book and a single picture, and I would just make a world. By the way, I say I used to. Might not be used to, might be last week. But like you open up a book, a site, like I'm definitely a fan of the old sci-fi that's a little bit more Flash Gordon, a little bit less detailed. I like the new stuff too, but I would find some sci-fi book and I would open it up and there'd be a page insert picture between chapters or what have you, which isn't done as much now. And it would be one little picture, and my brain would just, It would explode, and I'd be all, oh man, I gotta, I know exactly what's going on in this picture. Those are good times, man. There's like nothing close to them. Or going in and finding a choose your own adventure book, and it'd have a shitty cover that looked like I drew it.
Yeah.
And it didn't matter. I would be like,
No,
Stonehenge, choose your own adventure Stonehenge
Yes.
or whatever. And I'd be like, oh,
There was something about the
fuck.
aesthetic or whatever it was,
Dude,
or the
the
sensibility it evoked. That,
And the
yeah.
border where
It's
you knew it was
fascinating.
a door. It was such a smart
Yep.
design. The art was not great, but the idea of it being a door and being a choose your own adventure book, and I would see, how they built the pyramids and
The
it was
endless
aliens.
possibilities of sort of
Yep.
that door sort of promised. Yeah.
Yep, you would just leap in there. Yes, we do have. Sorry, guys, we went off. That's pretty much what happens. Real quick, I'm going to read these guys' discords. We got some super chats here. Kel says, if you stuff a body in a vat of Mountain Dew, it'll dissolve much more rapidly than, say, dumping it in a swamp. The reason why he's saying that is because I asked everybody to give me body hiding tips if they didn't have any game questions. So thank you very much to Kel. Knucklehead says, have you guys ever been a part of an industry during an event that changed it irreversibly? I was working fast food during the rise of food delivery apps. Oh, interesting. Damn. And also worked fast food pre, during, and post-COVID. Seeing that industry change so much basically overnight was crazy.
Yeah, I can imagine. It would be.
It's going to sound
Not-
really weird, but you're a big soccer fan. Has there been any huge changes to the rules or changes to the sport itself? Because I'm unaware of that sport that has felt like, wow, this has changed things.
The big thing probably is money, which
Right.
I lost like 20 years ago, really. Like in the mid to late 2000s was when I started to really lose interest in like elite professional football.
Because of
just
the
because-
extra money being involved in the deals and stuff.
Yeah, just the eye-watering sums of money and the way I felt like ownership consolidation of certain clubs and whatnot, what that was doing to local football. Because that is something that I think is very different from European sports to American sports. Is in America, a lot of these clubs are like privately owned, like franchises, where
Mhm.
in Europe there are sports associations.
Mm.
So they're basically local gyms, or similar to like local gyms, where you just go play a football game at the local club every week, or you are literally, for many people, part of the club on an amateur level, and then like you can move through the levels. Like that's one of the great things about the tiered sort of progression system of the European leagues, is that you have most nations have a cup where
Like a major and a minors in some way in
Yeah,
baseball
yeah.
here. I'm just trying to
kind
get a
of,
comparison.
but you can actually get like most nations here in Europe have, or every like nation here in Europe has a national cup, and in those
Oh.
cups at the furthest tiers you get the lowest rung amateurs, where you could basically start your own football club and then compete in the national cup. And if you won your games and you kept winning through the tiers, you could actually go all the way up. And like if a lower tier baseball club
Right,
ultimately
we're
ended up
somehow
playing the New York Yankees
Right.
in
Yeah, that's awesome.
in a cup final. And you could actually end up, like, if you're on the lowest rung of the totem pole of like Spain's football system, you could end up theoretically playing Barcelona, and like,
And
so upsets happen, and though that sort of unpredictability and potential is a huge part of the appeal of
Mhm.
sport of the sport here.
And you're saying that you're starting to see the private ownership become a thing?
Yeah,
Or-
it certainly. Certainly, it became worse. I
Mm.
think also in the way that it made it so much harder for lower rung clubs to compete, because the larger rung clubs would just poach all the talent away. Because they had the finances to do it.
Right.
So it was hard. So it was more difficult for a lower rung club to sort of maintain momentum to progress through the different tiers, because like if you had a really good squad that allowed you to like progress from one tier to the next, then that talent was likely to get poached away by the higher tier squads, and then all of a sudden you had to start from scratch as you had progressed to a new tier. And a lot of that, as well as just like the corruption with like massive egos and money and whatnot, and vanity that I saw with a lot of professional athletes, sort of disillusioned me and really sort of made me discover hockey as the other team sport I really started to take an interest in.
It's funny because I don't have that experience because we have a different system, but with football, I did grow up when they changed away. So it used to be like basic, sort of an Iron Man style football of running mixed with passing. And then I remember starting to see quarterbacks, and you started getting these high throwing teams, and you would see this tit for tat. You'd see a couple years where the Super Bowl was being won by, high passing teams. They were passing all the time. Right. Then the running team would figure it out, and they would do it, and they would win. And then now, I hadn't watched it in a while, and I return now, and they've changed some rules. They've got instant replay for things I wasn't aware of. And the game does not feel, I'm not saying it doesn't feel the same. It's still 11 jackasses versus 11 jackasses, right? Like that right. part is there. But the way it's even played and some of the stuff was actually, because I watched this last Super Bowl, and I was like, whoo, this is a good deal different than, what, like when I was younger, Pittsburgh Steelers or something, where I would see a team do a certain thing, see another team figure it out. It could take longer. Now, I think with the money involved, there's no time to build a franchise. You have to, you need to deliver that year, right? Where in the past you would see building of a team, but now with that much money involved and that many things involved, it's more like buying the team, buy these people, fill them into slots. And it's definitely changed the game. I'm trying to think of another industry that I've been involved in. I can't really think of anything other than I do remember going to music stores, and I haven't gone to a music store in like 2 decades. But I feel like the delivery of music, I remember the smell of, like, vinyl has a smell, and their covers, the cardboard inside, cardboard has a dry kind of smell to it. And I remember walking into those, and now the smell is, there's no association. It's just like, here's some music online. There wasn't going through and thumbing through CDs, which I used to really enjoy, thumbing through records and going like, oh, this. And yes, I did buy a lot of records on their cover, and I did have some disastrous results where I saw the cover and I was like, yeah, this cover looks awesome. I bet you this band's good. Then you bring it home and you're like, damn, because we're talking a time when I don't even remember there was a sampler board. As in, you couldn't really put you were buying that record if you wanted to listen to it, and that was it. Good question from Knucklehead. Go ahead.
Maybe writing counts, because like I come like you from like an analog time, where we were taught cursive in school, penmanship and whatnot, and writing physically. Which I've struggled with because of the deformities in my wrists, but yeah, I mean, going from having to write like physically and having to like all of our like papers, all of our term papers and whatnot for schoolwork had to be written in hand. They had to be handwritten.
Mine too. Yeah, there was nothing.
And turned in. And going from that to the transition to the like digital transition. That was certainly an experience, also professionally.
I think also the big thing I had was some teachers would require it to be written in pen.
Yeah.
No erase.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
So you would come
pencil,
in with
it had to be a pen.
There was so you know what? You'd write it in pencil, and then you'd be like, okay, this is what I want to put down. Then you're like making sure that thing was right. But for me, the big one was, I remember the day of getting an Apple II, and it was black and green for the monitor, no color, and writing entire stories, hundreds upon hundreds of pages on green. It was green. There was not. And then I got my first one-line LCD from, it wasn't Canon. It's not Canon. There's another company that's still around that does printers and stuff. But I got my first one, and I remember it was one line of LED, and being able to delete was a big thing because I had also grown up on typewriters. And so when I went to the second job after HP, they were all doctorates. There was not a single non-doctorate there except for yours truly. And I sent an email one time, and I didn't say who it was from, and everybody knew. And the reason why? Double spacing after the period. they knew instantly it was from me because no one else double-spaced after a period, but I was accustomed to typewriters and it stuck with me even at HP, and nobody said anything at HP. In fact, I think some double-spaced after, but it became bothersome to me because I liked the double space because it felt like there was a pause between sentences. It was easier to parse. When I look at it, right, I'm like, oh, I get it. I know this is a sentence. It's not just a little period and you move on. It's like, boom, here's a double space. And going to a place where people didn't do it and being like, damn, man. Like, it took years for me to
or don't use paragraphs. Couple that with that not using paragraphs.
Just yeah. And then, dude, it's so crazy. It's so crazy to remember back then working on a typewriter and having no erase.
I have an enduring memory of when I think I was very young. I must have been like 7 or 8. My mother worked at the Danish post office, or the National Post Service, and took me into work one day, and basically just parked me at a typewriter and said, "Oh, well, have fun." And that was just eye-opening. Like that, that was an expression, a potential, a possibility of endless expression of my imagination. Like that empty page and just typing on it, just kept me completely engaged and enthralled.
My mom worked as the middle school secretary, and so she worked an hour before my school started, an hour after. So I would go in the morning. Instead of going to sit by myself, I would use her system to write stories, and then I would go to school, and then she gave me the system to write stories after school. So I always had an hour before and an hour after, and it was dude, it was magical, man. And so Juan saying typewriter tech, the white strips you hammer the same letter to erase it was pure magic when that came. We called it whiteout. I don't know what it's called, but the strip of white that
we have we had a term for it where basically translated it the screw up ink.
So that's what I was going to bring up.
Yeah,
that's what my teachers could tell. Like, then this is starting because typewriters went away well before I was like typing anything long for work or for school. But when I was first in school, a teacher could definitely see that you messed up because you'd look at this paper and you'd see these white blotches in places. Like, this guy. But they didn't have a problem with it. It was just something that you easily noticed. Yeah, those were the days, man. Of there was something about knowing that there wasn't as many abilities for you to screw up that I really liked. There was a sort of a stress at the end of the page where it was like you were. I would flow well, but I would still know. I'd be like, okay, if you fuck this up, it's going to look goofy on the page. And I liked my paper.
It's going to hurt the presentation. Yeah.
Yes, because I still have old things I type or that I typed when I was a kid. My mom has kept them. She gave them to me, and I have them in a folder. And if I see too many of those strips, because I still have them. And if I see too many little white strips, I'll be like, oh, that was a missed opportunity to get this perfect.
Exactly.
Even though it was for nobody. It was for us. It was just like, let's write. Yeah. Dude, those were good times, man. And no grammar, spell check or nothing. So you'd type everything out and you'd see
a dictionary, maybe. Yeah.
A dictionary. But how many times I remember typing something, pulling it out and being like, ta-ta-da. And then I would look at the page and somehow your brain... whatever number of words.
How did this happen?
Would go boom, and you'd be like, motherfucker, and there'd be like there would be backwards. You'd be like, how did that? Oh man, those. I never tried to roll it back up and erase those either. I usually ended up just typing the whole thing out. But yeah, when I would get in trouble, my mom and dad would always be like, okay, write 500 times. You're sorry for what you did. That was a big deal. Your arm had hurt.
Right.
You were saying that you have arm issues, but even mine. Even after martial arts, I'd be like writing, and after a while, your hand would cramp up, and you'd be like, "Oh my god, I just really want to never do this again because I don't want to have to respond to this." Yeah, those were good times. I think the analog stuff is, I know that people don't believe it's useful anymore, but there's certainly a focus / concentration /
Yeah, I mean, I think it's very similar to why something like calligraphy is so important to something like Japanese culture, right?
Yeah. And check writing, because mine has gone to shit. My signature do. I don't know about yours, but it really is. The practicing I did as a kid is real, because now I see it, and I don't practice it, obviously, and the signature is terrifyingly bad. And I'll go, and it will, after 3 or 4 years, like if you go back 3 years, you go back another 3 years, you go, it gets, noticeably more doctor-like, more like meh. And it just looks like, random shit on the screen. Thank you very much, Knucklehead. That was a good question. I didn't expect it to balloon up to that. Jesus Crust says, in the light of 2 recent animal games, like Another Crab's Treasure and Little Kitty, Big City, what's an animal you want a game based off of? And what type of game would that be? A game?
There are a lot of... a game like Wolf Quest, I think, is also another amazing example where you play as a wolf and have to build out your pack and build a family, as it were. That's already been done, so that sort of steals that as a possible answer.
I'll add mine. I would like to see a game with Ricky Tikki Tavi in it. I mean, that I grew up with Ricky Tikki Tavi,
right?
So that was like, I don't know why it would never go away.
Mongoose.
Yes, and the name is memorable, and so
right.
I would actually, I don't know why, but I actually love the idea of like the self-sacrifice, dying for the family kind of stuff. Yeah, go fight snakes and stuff. I actually think that would be really cool. I think a platypus would be fun, and that's not a joke. I think platypus are hilarious.
They are.
They're just nature's clowns, and so when you look at them, you're
not just nature's clowns, but they're also nature's like middle finger to any attempts of like categorization. And
can you imagine
mammals have
writing,
births?
Can you imagine you're writing your thesis on evolution and you get to the platypus? Can you imagine you're following everything else? You're like, this sort of jumps here, and you get to the platypus and you're like, that fucking can't be real, and nobody thought it was real for years. They were like, there's no animal that's not real. Yeah, dude, I would love to see. I think platypus would be great. I think a wolf would be fun because I love dogs and wolf. I like that kind of stuff. Building out a pack, that kind of stuff would be very cool. Any of the solitary ones like Stray and like the Little Kitty, where you are just one animal, is cool. But the idea of like a wolf pack, I think that actually appeals to me too.
Wolf Quest also has multiplayer, so it allows you to like have run a wolf pack.
You have to hunt.
Players.
Yeah. Oh, damn. Yeah, see, I didn't even know that exists. Something like that would be interesting. I also think Falconeer did this a little bit, just by sheer name.
Right.
But I do think a bird one.
Falcon one would be.
Falcon one would be cool. Yeah.
Really cool, yeah.
And you could do the hunting because they're used for hunting. You could do all kinds of stuff, landmark tracking. I mean,
the dive bombing, man.
Dude, that'd be the dive bombing where they're breaking necks on ducks and shit. Like I've seen those YouTubes going, that's a stone cold bitch, man. Like the duck will just be sitting there, and then
they're absolutely amazing animals.
Yeah, and it always stuns me because all birds have somewhat the same bone structure. It's still pretty hollow. Right. That's how they fly, and yet you see,
but they're just totally built for speed. Yeah,
and just breaking necks, man. I mean, the first time I ever saw it, I was like, "What the fuck did it do? Is that an accident?" And they're like, "No, it's on purpose. It just smashes into them at full speed." Yeah. Breaks their neck. I was like, "Jesus Christ, that's evil." Yeah, that would be fun. A bird one would be cool. I do feel that anything, this is going to sound weird, but I watched the nature show on these, the lemurs. I like the little families of the little lemur guys. I sort of dig the what was it, Discovery Channel maybe? Where they had, or was it lemurs or was it?
No, that was Animal Planet.
Was it meerkats? Was it meerkats?
No, that was also part of the Discovery Network.
I think that's the one I wanted to see. Yeah, I would love to see those. I would love to have like meerkat. Yeah, that would be amazing to see an animal like a game based around that. You could do some crazy shit.
They're actually pretty nasty animals. Meerkats, like they're not very good to each other.
Oh, right. Yeah. Oh, no,
attitude-wise. Yeah.
That's why I didn't mention Echo the Dolphin, the remake, because now everybody knows what dolphins are like, and I'm like, right. That's all right. I'll pass on the dolphin game, the mature dolphin game, and then you find out what they do, and you're like, I don't know if I want to be a dolphin. Meerkat Manor.
Same thing with chimpanzees.
Yeah, same thing with somebody was saying there's the monkey game. I believe that was Ancestry. Was the monkey game?
Yeah.
Ancestry.
Yes.
Yeah. Monkeys, chimpanzees. I don't know if I want to. I don't know how in depth I want to get because man, you see some of those videos of them in the forest, and you're like, these guys are just dicks. It feels to me like it wouldn't be enjoyable. Yeah. And then let's see. Old Boy says Animal Well and the viability of influencers as investors, publishers. So this is about Donkey's game. Have you got a chance to check out Animal Well? Because it might be up your alley. No. So as a full platformer / thoughtful platformer game, I guess we would say, so that everybody knows, Donkey, of course, is a YouTuber, does a lot of just really goofy kind of videos, and decided a couple years ago that he was going to publish or help publish video games he thought were good, I guess. And I don't know their thought process or how they chose this, but Animal Well, it scored really well. It did really well, and I think that obviously it's the developer who did that, but it probably did help that Donkey had a history of, even though he jokes a lot, of looking at games. I personally would say I don't see the viability of an influencer any more than a developer or a composer. I don't think I know anything more. I mean, I've helped consult on games, but I just don't know. It's not the same as making them. I can tell them what problems I've run into, maybe, but it's worked for him. But I think that he's a smart guy, he knows what he's doing. It doesn't mean it worked for everybody, and I don't know if the viability of influencers has gone up just because he's had such a great success with that game. I think what's gone up is the viability of Donkey helping out a dev get that made, and I hope that continues. I think it's a little different. What were you going to say?
No, just but I think, I mean, if there is one thing like influencers can bring to that equation, it would be visibility, right?
Correct, and that's exactly what I thought might happen, but didn't as much.
Right.
You know, I haven't got emails from him because I've talked to him in the past on chat, I think on emails, but yeah, that's the thing. Like, you know, in telling you what may or may not work for in your genre, if that person has done a lot of games in that genre, that kind of data is very useful.
Or how maybe give you feedback on how the gameplay loop might feed into like streamers or stuff like that, or like in terms of popularity or something.
I think the one thing I wouldn't want, Silver, is I like some games, and I'm pretty good if I don't like them on saying why I don't. However, there are, of course, games I don't like. That's how the world goes. I wouldn't... That's a director. That's not an influencer. At some point, you become the director if you're focusing everything. And you're, you know, so like if somebody said, I like Arma, and they said, we're going to make the next Arma, we want you as a consultant, I'd be great. Consultant on the side, no problem. But if you start going to where you're on top versus beside them, I don't want to direct them, because I don't think I would have any higher success rate than anybody else. At some point, it would still just then be me going what a director does, which is decides what to focus on. I would be able to say what's worked.
Or be like the production company that sends notes to the director, like, "Oh,
I don't want to be that." This, WB, you know, saying, you know, cut this out of your movie or whatever.
Yeah.
And that's the other thing.
We need to appeal to this particular demographic, 16 to 24-year-olds. Yeah.
And that's what bothers me a lot.
And increase this. Yeah.
Yeah, increase this. Make sure she shows more boob here or less boob here, and you're just like, dude, come on. That's the edit doesn't even make sense. On the other hand, you got Rebel Moon, which should have had 15 editors giving him notes, but when you look at that kind of stuff, I do think information helps, definitely, and more I mean, it's just information, but the director, I like the idea of a developer making what they want, not what social media has told them what to make. I sort of like the idea of a developer coming up with their own stuff and saying, this is what I want to make. And I say, okay, surprise me. Instead of me saying, you do it this way. To me, that's backward, because I'm still a buyer of games. I'm not out there. If I want to make a game, I would be the director, and I would make the game the way I wanted from the top down. I would focus it. And I would certainly ask other directors for consultation. But there's a huge difference between consultation and directing and being like up there. I don't think there's much... I think after a while, there's not a lot of overlap. You see a lot of YouTubers trying to make their own games and stuff, and 90% of them fail? Because it's not the same thing. Dude,
no,
come on. If it was that easy, we'd all have a game. ACG, OnlyFans, you know, fucking, I don't know, mystery game where you get to figure out a way to take off my beanie and shave my beard and see what I really look like. I don't like the idea of it. It's, I don't like the idea of it being better than something else. I don't think it is.
I understand, but I think what you're describing goes to the heart of like the integrity of art, right? And the artistic vision, if you want to get fancy or or whatever. Like there is, I mean, particularly in the system that we have, there is sort of a complete focus with art on the viability of profit. That can this sell well over any sort of artistic sort of regard. Like, how is there any money in this? Is the chief question, right? That artists working within the capitalist system have sort of worked over the past many centuries, and that sort of compromise that they have to strike between profitability and their artistic vision or whatever it is has been the source of frequent conflict.
And I think also, no matter what, business is coming into it, whether it be the business of me bringing in cash that I've got from being a YouTuber and I'm going to help you invest, whether it be me being a cheaper consultant than some multi-conglomerate. It's always going to, in the end, be about money, and I have no issue with that because money is real, and anybody who pretends it doesn't is just, that's over. But what I like is the idea of a developer having the idea and bouncing off of them versus driving them. I like the idea of, I've seen a lot of developers, like you said, they're not focusing just on art, but it is 90% of it, where even if they try to do a different sort of art style, you can almost sometimes tell they try to do it in a way that still captures a bunch. It's like, look, our game looks different, but it still looks in a way that will appeal to the largest group of different. And then you get that game that doesn't look like anything. And sometimes it doesn't work. Did you play the ship game that looked like newspaper? It gave me a migraine.
Yeah,
it was
Obra
Dinn, dude. You know, that's a miss. Like, it happens. Sometimes they don't. I mean, I know some people probably loved it, but it actually made me trying to focus on it, gave me some issues. Do you remember the Monolith game that was black and white and red when you hit guys? It was Berserk.
Vaguely, I think.
Yeah, but it was a black and white game, and it had heavy contrast, and it also was really difficult to look at. So I do get why an artist might say, I want to do this, but we do have to still make it look good, even though I don't like it. Lucitan says Asmongold is publishing 2 games under his OTK company. Yeah, I think publishing is a great deal different than what we're talking about. Publishing, that's really, at that point, is really an investor.
And I think
that really is.
I think that aspect that you're describing also goes to the heart of what are you actually trying to make? Are you trying to make art, or are you trying to make like entertainment?
Yeah. And both being fine, right? Like,
yeah.
If you do want to make an art game where you're not, it may be impacted by the art and make it less gamey, I'm okay.
Yeah, less approachable, or
yeah.
Where maybe only 3 people will enjoy it, or whatever.
Yeah, right.
If that's your vision, yeah.
Dude, I should make a game where it just mimics the black and green of an Apple IIe. I mean, I guess that's just Oregon Trail, right? Now that I think about it. I would like to see Oregon Trail be remade. Let's see. What else do we got in here?
I mean, Banner Saga kind of has touches of Oregon Trail.
It does. Banner Saga B. I want to make sure we're talking about the little caravan. Yeah. You have died of dysentery. But those guys, they I think it had a pretty good look as well, that Banner Saga. They did a pretty good job. The animation is good. It gets past some of the there's some stodginess to it here and there, but overall that game definitely has feelings of Oregon Trail to it. If anybody hasn't played Oregon Trail, basically it's just you died. The end screen. Yeah. For the most part. I died a lot. I died of everything. I think somebody told me they made a new one though, because I think
they did for like the anniversary or something.
I think it was like 3 weeks ago I brought it up and somebody had said that they had made a new one. Let me look at the news real quick before we wrap this one up and see if there's anything new. If you guys get a chance right now, go leave a comment on the video. Again, it helps hugely while I'm looking for the last bit of news for Silver and I. There's nothing. No, wait, I missed that. Hit the wrong button. Homeworld 3's got an overview trailer. That's about it. I guess my question to you would be, Homeworld. So, I can't wait to play 3. I'm excited for it. There's a VR one that's coming. Are you a Homeworld fan? Because I'm sorry if I can't remember, and we've talked about it before.
I played the original one, not very much. I think I didn't get that much into it. I know my best friend Lemon Streak, whom I've mentioned a bunch, was very fond of the first Homeworld from Relic. But I mean, I was a huge fan of Relic's games in general.
Yeah, you definitely were. You and I both. So is it Homeworld's 3D-ness that doesn't make you instantly whatever, or is it the sci-fi nature of it?
No, I think I don't even know what it was at the time. That made me bounce off it. I couldn't tell you.
Could have been maybe you weren't doing mouse and keyboard at the time as much, and maybe
no. It just I don't know. I think maybe it was just that the major like space like 4X wasn't
right
a huge genre for me back then. Whether it was that or like Imperium Galactica, or even though like Homeworld was a much smaller scale than that.
Somebody said my eyebrows going over my beanie. Like an evil cartoon character. Does it all the time. I got one heavy eyebrow here. What when it comes to like those old games, Imperium Galactica, but the other one for me, I'm a big fan of Galactic Civilizations, even though that's not real time. And then Empire Earth. I was huge into Empire Earth, man. Like I liked Age of Empires, but Empire Earth was my shit because it felt like all those games you stopped after you built a fucking pyramid or you built your major, and that game let you go to space. And it felt like one more step instead of, you built the Leaning Tower of Pisa, you built fucking the Eiffel Tower, and then it sort of felt like it ended. Of course, you went farther than that in your tech, but I always felt like that sort of ended that. Is there anything, before we wrap it up, anything for RTSs you'd like to see? Because I know you play them a bunch. We both play Warhammer. Is there anything you'd like to see from them? And ignoring the business side, I'm talking more along the lines of, gameplay.
Yeah.
Or true, like anything in the gameplay side.
Yeah, I mean, I think just from a pure gameplay perspective, one of the best I've ever played still, I think, is probably Command and Conquer General 0 Hour, just because of the way that those factions were sort of balanced. So, so to see another sort of take on that, also just the way they set up the battles to be like similar to like a 2D fighting game, or like a traditional beat 'em up game where you had one general versus another general, which was just a lot of fun. Like it was very kitschy and sort of off kilter, and like seeing someone trying to recapture that, I would appreciate.
I think the one thing I would appreciate on those as well would be the ability for, it can't be Nemesis system, we know that, but so you go against these enemies many times, and sometimes you defeat them and sometimes you don't, and I know the game tracks like attitudes towards each other, but I do sort of like the idea of, let's say I defeated the enemy with horsemen or something, and then the next time we faced off, he did something.
They bring a lot of spearmen.
Right. Just this little thing, or I notice it. You don't even have to go to the battle and be magically surprised. Yeah, the idea of seeing them generate, and by the way, they might already do this. I don't know. But yeah, the idea of, let's say you defeat the guy with horsemen 3 or 4 times, instead of just building over it or building more, suddenly you notice they're all building spearmen, and you're like, what the is going on? And then you realize it's because you would defeated them with horsemen. I don't know if the game does that. It doesn't seem like it would be that difficult. That would be awesome. Are we getting a new one that's not Warhammer? We got Pharaoh, right? That was the last one.
Yeah, that was. I mean, the big rumor mill speculation is that we'll get 40K Warhammer 40K for Total War. That's what they're working on at the moment.
That would be insanity.
I'm still kind of hoping we'll get Three Kingdoms too, because they did announce that, but word is that that's sort of been canceled in the whole, like, in the slew of among the slew of layoffs that Sega implemented a creative assembly. But I'm still holding out hope, because Three Kingdoms to me is probably, it's weird. I think it's like the best Total War game, but Warhammer 3 is still the one that I play the most, and the one that sort of captures and engages my imagination the most.
And
Even though
me,
the gameplay elements aren't as strong as Three Kingdoms.
As Three Kingdoms, I was just going to say I like the one Empire Earth, or no, what we talk about this all the time. The one that no one seems to like that much. I like that one in this series. I can't remember. It's the one I think they first introduced the ships in
Empire
it.
Total War.
Yeah, Empire. And I know it was buggy, and it was. I just liked the scale and the ideas they had.
Yeah.
But I don't play it anymore. I play the Warhammer one if I'm going to play anything, and I don't even play that much anymore. So I think that might not be unusual. I have a feeling that a lot of gamers who like that series, some will like the new ones, for sure. Maybe even an equal number. But I think that they're close enough to like the old. So you might get some of the things you got in the old one, but it's a new world. And so you're like, I'll get it. It feels to me like they could have 3 more developers making those games and would still be able to sell quite well, to different groups. Because I feel like we're sort of niched into Warhammer, and I love Warhammer. But even I'm like, come on. Let's, let's do something different.
That's definitely a point of criticism that the fans of the historical games have levied significantly at Creative Assembly over the past 7 or 8 years, where Warhammer has sort of been the big thing for the Total War franchise.
Are you interested in the Dune one? The Dune RTS that's coming out, or
I am genuine. Also because it also feels nicely cyclical, because to a large extent, Dune was the original Dune RTS.
True.
That sort of inspired Command and Conquer. It was part of that. Was one of the main progenitors of real-time strategy games. The way they're played, have been played for 30 years.
So it feels like, in a weird way, calling your kid Ray because your great-grandfather was named that. Yeah, it does. I can see that. I'm just having a difficult time with the desert stuff. Desert, and what I'm gonna get from it. I have a hard time being really emotionally or artistically involved with desert locations for a long period of time. It requires a lot from me. I don't know why. Right. I've always been that way. And I like Dune, and I've read it. I like the new movies. I like the old. I love the old. And yet, the RTS is just I don't know. It feels. I don't know. It just feels like it'll be just a bunch of guys in the desert that all look the same, attacking each other. I'm sure I'm wrong. They're not stupid, but you don't see a lot of vehicles in those games. You don't see a lot of steeds other than the worms. You don't see. You know what I mean? And I guess I'm trying to figure out how they're going to make the units we're so accustomed to in a Warhammer game or in a Total War with horses, or how you're going to replicate that in Dune. What are they going to ride each other? I don't.
No, I would assume they're going to have armored vehicles and
you think so? Well, I guess they could if it's the major. Yeah, true. Yeah, true. How many? Do you remember how many groups there are in Dune? I only remember 3.
The houses. I don't actually. Embarrassingly.
Yeah, so I know of one other one, but I don't even remember its name. But you have, the
Atreides and Harkonnen are the two big ones. Yeah.
Maybe you'll just be going after each other. I don't know. I haven't read too much up on the game. I want to check it out, but I'm just a little bit stressed about what we're gonna get. Do you have anything else to add or news that I've missed? I thought I got yours, or we overlapped it. Okay, and I think I've got my stuff. Everybody in chat, like I said, thumbs up the podcast. We appreciate it. Is there anything else you want to talk about? Because I got time. I know you're sitting there. You probably have to pee, but is there any other?
No, I think we've been.
Let me do the Twitter ones. Let me do the Twitter ones. We'll do these quick. John Allen says, following the success of Stellar Blade, a brand new IP from a new dev, do you think more established companies may change their stance and create some new ones? I believe a lot of their success was because it was something new.
No, Stellar Blade is not the first original IP to come out and be successful. So
I don't see that. I don't, because it's a 4-year development plan anyway. So if they started today, right? If they started their development today, we wouldn't see it for 4 years minimum. But I would love to see that. But I don't think developers make those kind of plans in that particular way. Goat says, if you were hired by Vault Tech to create your own Vault experiment, what would you do? Dude, those Vault experiments are dark as shit.
Yeah.
I was reading about them last night going, damn, what would I do in a Vault? There's a lot that are dark as shit. I'm trying to think it's such a weird... What would I do in a Vault? Also
because they've been sort of so diverse that it's hard to sort of pick something that hasn't been done in a Vault experiment.
Yeah, especially if you start reading up on them, there's a great deal of them. That's a good question. We may have to rethink that one, because I mean, there's some that I could say out loud that are really dark, but I think when it comes to the Vaults, they're already dark. I mean, if you guys get a chance, go read up on some of the Vault experiments in Fallout, and you'll be like, oh, okay, I get why you're saying this.
It definitely evokes like the Stanford Prison Experiment, Stanley Milgram, and stuff like that. Yeah.
It absolutely does, which, by the way, not only changed the face of how you do experiments, but ended up in, I believe, a couple hundred lawsuits, I think, by the time it was done. Because didn't a bunch of the students sue back afterwards, or did they not?
I believe so,
I feel like they sued. Wade says, if there was one mechanic you'd love to see that's no longer under any kind of copyright, what would that be? I think he's just wanting us to say Nemesis, because there's not many that are under copyrights that are a gameplay mechanic that I know of. They're talking about Abiotic Factor, which I haven't checked out. Is there a least favorite modern game mechanic? We're being asked by Mate Paterna. A least favorite modern game mechanic.
I mean, I spent, I don't know, nearly 9 years now on this podcast complaining about minimaps. That has to rank pretty highly for me still. I do not like minimaps in general. I think they distract for a significant portion of the game. They distract you from actually engaging with and seeing the game world, because your attention is so focused on the actual minimap. And maybe seeing like if there are icons or harvestable resources or whatever near you, rather than actually observing the game world.
Icons on a minimap are the achievements of gameplay in a way. They pop up and I got to go here, and it drives you without experiencing the game world. And anybody listening, I can tell you straight up, there's a lot of games, even if they have some issues, if you turn off the minimap and you turn off the HUD, there is a whole other world out there waiting for you. I would say my least favorite game mechanic, and one that I was happy to say Manor Lords did not do, which is an RTS where you just get a +1 when you get a bigger house, or a +2 or a +3. He had all these levels of goats you could raise in your backyard. And is it completely different? No. It's subtle changes, and again, that's because completely different would be Alien. And instead, he was smart to put these little intersections in, and he did a really, really good job in that. Def Ego says, with all the rumors have been trending around Xbox and Microsoft, do you think rice is superior to bread as a carbohydrate? I love these guys. Fucking Twitter. You guys rock. I think, dude, I like rice more than bread already. White rice is like one of my... Do you like rice, or are you a bread person? Or I guess they don't compare.
I mean, I like both, but bread is very much a staple here.
Sourdough?
No, rye bread. Rye bread in particular.
Really? Yeah. Rye bread's big there. Well, now I know.
Yeah, like our national dish is basically open face sandwich on rye bread.
Dude,
really
our national dish is diabetes and an eagle. Like that's it. I don't even know what our national dish is. Probably something for Thanksgiving, but rye bread as a national dish, man, that's not us.
Yeah.
Do you like sourdough? Do you like? Because I love me some like potato bread or sourdough, man. Sourdough is fucking so good.
I mean, it's like fresh baked bread in general, particularly like from like Italy or France. Amazing.
Okay, do you absolutely destroy all credibility by putting margarine on it, or do you put butter on it?
I would never put margarine on
anything
on bread. I don't tend to put butter on it. But if I am going to put butter on it, it will be on rye bread. So
okay, gotcha. Well, what do you not put on it, or what? So
I do not put butter on like rye bread in general.
Okay. And do you guys do toast? So if you do toast, what do you put? What would you? You don't do rye bread toast, or do you?
No.
Okay, I get you. Now I understand what you're saying. Yeah, because I would say that would be hard to eat without butter. But yeah, I love butter on toast. Last up, Christopher
Also,
Cervantes.
you have to when we make like our open face sandwich, we put a lot of condiment, a lot of stuff on it. So like there might be like 1 or 2 meats or
right.
like
So
vegetables, like slices of tomato or whatever. Yeah.
Dude, do you know what I love, man? A white crisp onion. I don't know how to describe it, but when I have a burger and you get the white onion, you slice it, and then you put I also like leeks, even though we called them small onions, which is just typical for my family. But the stalky ones, long stalked, like slightly. There's another name for them too, but I love the big white onions, and then you slice it and you put that on a hamburger. I like the difference between the burger and the crispy white onion. Christopher Cervantes says, for the final Fantasy VII game, can the PS5 withstand moving with high wind like in the original game? Oh. The mechanic of that? Yeah, I think it's fine. They'll figure it out. I liked Final Fantasy V or Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. Did you play it yet?
I haven't played it. Don't really intend to either.
Don't intend to. Okay. I think they'll be fine, guys. They can figure this shit out pretty easily. It's not too hard. Looking in here, Empire Earth, you could nuke cities, use the Prophet to summon hurricanes, tornadoes, or earthquakes. Hurricanes were OG. CB said I had over level 1500 in Empire Earth. So we got a bunch of Empire Earth fans. You're good people. You're better people than you were right before I read that. Like distinctly better people to me. Oregon Fresh says potatoes are our main food group. Wow. Vincent does say something correct. Potato can make bread, though, and that is correct. Potato bread is good. And then last,
potato soup is also good.
I like potato. Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
especially with like bacon sprinkled on it.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what I was going to say, because if it was just potato bread, I would eat it, but a little bit of like salt, pepper, and then bacon, any kind of bacon that you can get is always good. Last up, CB says Worms Armageddon was OG. Ninja rope across the map and toss grenades. It was, but I just don't know why Worms came up in that discussion. What Worms has to do, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either.
That's completely random, but there we go. It's typical Discord. Well, I want to thank Silver for coming. As always, that was a blast. We got to sit back and chat about some stuff that wasn't game related, but it was a blast to do it, and I appreciate everybody listening. Thanks to all of you guys. Have excellent weeks. Tomorrow, Johnny will be streaming, I think, at 6 a.m. on Johnny Plays Live. Make sure you have a good week. Oh, and after this, like and comment on the podcast. Peace out, everybody. Have awesome weeks or weekends.
Take care.
Boom, down.